All jurors present and accounted for, Judge.
Thank you, Deputy Murphy. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being on time. We worked through a couple things, but we hopefully will see Mr. Brown. Here he comes. Mr. Brown, you remain under oath, and we are going to transition from direct examination to cross-examination. So once you are comfortable and situated near that microphone, let me know. We'll get started.
I'm ready.
Great.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell us how Diane Macgyver was compensated by her work? Did she get a salary? Did she get a draw? What did she get from U.S. Enterprises or Corey?
She was paid the 18th of the month, a salary.
And how much was her salary? Is it reflected in?
It'll say payroll deposit. I think it was a little over $4,300 a month. Oh, these are old.
Would you like a newer one? Would that be better?
I just don't see it on here.
All right, so for the record, the one you're looking at is State's Exhibit 201.
Yeah, this is 2011. It should be on here. I'll just have to. She had different accounts. This was probably payroll. So.
You got to speak up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know at the end it was $4,300 a month.
Okay. All right. So in 2016, her salary was $4,300 a month. That was after taxes and any other things that were taken out of her paycheck?
Yes, that's what we'll show. If it should be on here, but that's what we show on the, and it says payroll deposit.
I'm trying to follow. You got the commas in the right place. You're saying $4,300 per month was her salary.
That was what she was paid by U.S. Enterprises. There's more, but that's what she was paid from U.S. Enterprises.
So from U.S. Enterprises, if we multiply 4 by 12, she gets approximately, let's say, $48,000 to $50,000 a year after taxes and everything else that's taken out of her check.
Yes.
All right. What other income did she have?
She had a $6,000 a month check from William E. Corey and a $4,000 a month check from Janelle Corey Real Estate. And then she was compensated. She owned a condo in Greensboro that one of the employees lived in, and they deducted the rent from his payroll, and then one of the companies in turn reimbursed her for the rent, so she got that check. And there was a check, I think, for $3,000 a month from Corey Companies.
So the $6,000 a month from William Corey, what was that? Do you know?
No, I don't. It was just a payroll check. And again, when you find them on here, it has the amount for each check it has the total amount of the deposit, and then broken down beside it, it has the amount of each check and who the check was from is all on here.
All right. And then you said there was a check from Janelle Corey Real Estate?
Yes.
And do you know what that was for?
No.
And then there was a rent payment, essentially, from Corey Companies?
It should have been from Corey Companies, and it should have been, it'll be on the first of the month, because that check came the first of the month. See, these are her old checking. She changed banks about in 2012, so if you had something that was closer to current, it would be easy. That's just mine.
So now you're looking at State's Exhibit 206.
Okay, this is 2016. So, okay, for January 2016, her payroll deposit was $3,835.38.
All right, so payroll deposit, that's her salary from U.S. Enterprises.
Right, and that was January of 2016.
Okay.
And then the other checks that I spoke about were deposited into claim management, not into her personal checking account. They were deposited in claim management on the first of every month. And the check for the rent was $827, and it was from Corey Companies. And then there was a check for $3,000 a month, and that was from U.S. Enterprises Real Estate. And I think they were every month.
U.S. Enterprises real estate is different from U.S. Enterprises.
Yes.
Okay. So on average, every month, she's bringing in approximately $18,000 in income or something like that?
And then claim management also had income. It owned billboards.
Okay.
And she got a monthly check from Fairway and a monthly check from Lamar. One was $11.05 and the other one was 12 something.
$1,100?
Yes.
Okay.
And the other one was about 1,200.
She owned some real estate that had billboards erected on the property, and these companies would rent the billboards from her?
Correct. She owned the plot that the land sat on, and then the companies owned the billboards, and they paid her a percentage of the rents.
Okay. And then we talked just a little bit about DRS, and we'll come back to that, but she was also, did you say president of DRS?
She didn't play an active role in DRS. Richard Harold and she owned each 50%, but Richard did most of the running of the business.
And what did DRS do?
As far as I know, nothing. It owned a billboard and had billboard income. And as far as I know, that's all it did.
Okay.
Now, it was back in the 90s, if I understand correctly, it developed the Izzy thing that was for the Olympics, and they had the rights for Izzy. It's how DRS, I believe, got started.
All right. So, so we just talked about the income that Diane gets, and you talked before about some of her expenses. And I noticed on these states exhibits, usually every month there was a payment for an Amex card, correct?
Correct.
And when she wanted to order clothes or makeup or whatever, were those types of charges put on the Amex card?
Yes. It's basically the only card she used.
All right. So we can't tell from these exhibits necessarily what she was spending her money on, right?
On the claim, because she used it for personal and for claim. If claim management was paying for it, it's broken down what the charge was and what the expense was, because that was a business deduction for her.
But if it's a personal item, it's not broken down?
No.
Okay. All right, so let's step through. We won't do all of these, but let's do States Exhibit 205, which is the spreadsheet you put together for 2015, correct?
Correct.
So we see, for example, in January 2016, claim management paid approximately, let me do it a better way, so we can all look at this together. All right, so we're looking at States Exhibit 205. This is your spreadsheet for January 2015, correct?
Correct.
And this is for the claim management account, right?
Correct.
These exhibits that are stapled together, they encompass more than one bank account that you kept track of for Diane?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so in January 2015, there was a payment of $2,103.64 to Amex, right?
Correct.
And you, it's broken down over here, which is what you were just explaining to us before.
Correct.
Okay. What does ENT mean?
Entertainment.
Okay, so there was $1,437.87 classified as entertainment.
Right. In this same box that this file was in was also the American Express statement for that month. And beside each line, there should be something written saying what it is.
Okay.
If it was entertainment, we put on there who I believe it should show who was being entertained.
Okay. So now...
And that wasn't what the whole bill was either. That was just the piece that claim management was paying. On that same date will be a reflection on her personal side on what she personally paid.
Got it. Well, so for example, the financial spreadsheet for February 2015, this is for her personal account, correct?
Yes.
Okay. there is a $5,549.78 payment made to American Express, correct?
Correct.
And this would have been for some sort of personal items.
Correct.
And for March 2015, for her personal account, we see $3,886.35 paid to Amex, correct?
Correct.
Again, personal items for Mrs. McIver.
And again, that wasn't the total balance of the bill for that month.
Right.
Okay.
It was more.
Correct.
For April 2015, for her personal account, $7,406.14 paid to Amex, right?
Correct.
For personal expenditures.
Correct.
And we also see on here, and this is reflected on more than 1 month, payments to Cognitive Awakenings, and that's a tutor for Austin Schwall, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay.
Johnny Fields.
That's something that Diane paid for every month,
Yes.
as well as she would pay for some of his schooling, wouldn't she? Like the Suzuki school?
Yes, when I first started working for her, he went to the Suzuki school and she paid that tuition.
Okay. All right, so for May 2015, for her personal account, $11,090.62 paid to Amex.
Yes.
If you know, was it the practice to pay the Amex bill in full every month?
Yes.
Okay. So if you're paying $11,090.62, that's how much was charged to the credit card in that billing period.
No.
All right, explain.
That's what her personal share of the bill was.
Okay.
Claim management had a part, and we used her American Express card for business expenses for U.S. enterprises. So when that bill came, I got her American Express bill every month, and that was one of the things I did was break down each charge. If it was personal or claim management or U.S. enterprise or Corey Company or whoever charged on her card, I had to make sure the appropriate company or person paid their share of the bill.
But these are personal expenses that she accrued in the last billing period.
Correct.
Okay. It's not some balance that's been carried forward for months.
Correct.
Okay. For June 2015, for her personal account, personal charges on her Amex bill of $3,194.91.
Are we going to go through each month?
I have, I'm not going to do every year, Your Honor. But if I...
Because this is all in evidence, these numbers that you're putting up on the screen.
Yeah, I understand, Your Honor, but they haven't necessarily been published to the jury, these particular numbers.
Okay.
July 2015, her personal checking account, $6,544.94.
Yes.
Okay. So we could keep going, correct?
Correct.
All right.
She paid one every month.
She paid the Amex bill every month, every year, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you told us about some of the trips, for example, that you planned for her, and I'll come to those in a minute. But did you also take care of buying clothes, if there were clothes that she wanted to buy?
Yes.
Okay, and purses, if there were purses she wanted to buy? Did you do that?
I don't think I ever purchased a purse.
Okay. But you know that Diane liked to spend money on her personal things that she wanted, correct?
Yes.
That's fair to say, isn't it?
Yes.
And she liked to spend money sometimes on things that were expensive, correct?
Correct.
She owned a Rolex watch, didn't she? Do you know?
I don't know.
Do you know if she owned diamond earrings?
She did.
Okay. Do you know if she owned fur coats?
She did.
Multiple fur coats?
Yes.
More than 100 fur coats? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. Did you ever purchase a fur coat for her?
No.
Okay. She did have a purse, didn't she?
Yes.
She had more than one?
Yes, she had more than one.
And she had a Chanel purse? didn't she? Do you know?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Do you know any of the brands of the purses that she had?
No.
All right. Fair to say that she liked designer items.
Yes.
Okay. And that applies to clothes, right?
Correct.
And to other things besides clothes.
Correct.
And did I understand you to say, did your partner help Diane and Tex with the design or decorating of their apartment? Okay. I misunderstood that then. But we can see from the spreadsheets that you did for us, in her personal account, she had money coming in, and there was quite a bit of money going out every month, correct?
Yes.
Okay. She was paying things like the condo association fees,
Correct.
the fees for Reynolds Plantation.
Correct.
They had Mr. and Mrs. McIver had a membership at Reynolds Plantation, didn't they? Do you know?
She had a membership.
She had a membership.
Yeah, it was her membership.
Okay, that she paid for every month.
Right.
And you said that you organized the vacations for Mr. and Mrs. McIver.
If
For her.
Well, here's how the plan was. If she was paying for the vacation, I made the travel plans.
Okay.
If Tex was paying for the trip, he or his secretary or assistant made the travel plans.
Okay.
Towards the end, I was kind of doing it for the both of them, but when it started, if she paid, I did it. If he paid, they did it.
And they took vacations sometimes that were quite expensive.
Yes.
Thousands of dollars.
Yes.
Tens of thousands of dollars? Or would you say just 10,000 and under?
They could have been over 10.
Okay. And they would invite other people to go with them?
Correct.
Would they pay, since you said that you only dealt with the ones that Mrs. McIver paid for, would she pay for the other people who were coming with them on their vacation?
No. Well, she took a family vacation with the Swalls every year.
And did she pay for that?
She paid 100% of that. She traveled with golf partners, and generally when she was making those trips, she paid for hers. I made everybody's reservation because I was already on the phone with the hotel. So I set up everybody's reservations, called her friends to say, here's your confirmation number, you need to call and make arrangements to pay.
Okay.
So I always made all of the arrangements, but when she was traveling with her golf friends, she only paid for her and Tex.
And they went to various locations on these vacations.
Yes.
They went to Pebble Beach to play golf? Was that-
Twice that I know of.
Okay. Did they go to Canada?
Yes.
Did they go to Alaska? Do you know?
Not that I remember.
What about Africa?
That was before me.
Okay.
So I knew she had been there, but not when I was working.
Not one you put in.
Right.
Hawaii,
Yes.
the Dominican Republic,
That doesn't sound familiar to me.
Puerto Rico. Did you do that one?
I don't think so.
Okay. Some trips to New York City?
I didn't do, as far as I know, she never went to New York while I
Okay.
knew her.
How about to somewhere out west with the Schwalls,
Sedona, yes.
Sedona? Can we tell from your spreadsheet that you put together how much cash she had when she died? You said the number, I think, 400,000.
It was,
direct.
there was, most of it was in her money market.
Okay.
And I don't have a spreadsheet for that.
Okay.
There was about 300, I think it was 360,000 or 260,000 in her money market. And then the rest was the balances in her checking account. The money market was either 260 or 360, I can't remember.
But other than the money market account, would the balance be reflected on your spreadsheet?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me what the balance would have been from 206 when she died in September?
No, I can't. This ends with March or April.
It doesn't go all the way to September?
No.
Okay, well, that's okay.
But at the bottom, it says balance. I mean, it's like I said, it's just like a checkbook register. As the money was coming out, the balance was reflected on the bottom line. So the
Okay.
bottom line is always the balance
Okay.
at the time.
And let me go back. Going back to talking about vacations, Was there a vacation that Diane and Tex took with Danny Joe where they went to France?
Yes.
And Diane paid for that trip?
She paid for Danny's ticket. I don't remember if she paid for her and Tex's ticket. Generally, if she was paying, she did. The house was in France was a friend of Tex's, so I don't know if there was money exchanged for that.
Okay.
I know they stayed at a hotel in Paris for a couple of days. I think she paid for that.
Okay.
And then Mrs. McIver also went, Tex's mother, and she paid her own airfare. I do know that because I made everybody's reservation. I just don't remember the paying part.
Okay, fair enough. So you said that after Diane died, you had this meeting with Tex, or maybe multiple conversations with Tex, and you said he seemed surprised at the amount of cash that was in her accounts.
Correct.
It was less than he thought it would be.
Correct.
Okay, and at that time, Tex was the executor of Diane's estate.
Correct.
And he was dealing with probating her will.
Correct.
Okay. And her will made some bequests to various people. There were dollar amounts she set out in her will and said, I want these people to get this amount of money.
Correct.
For example, or not for example, she said she wanted to leave $200,000 to James and Wanda Hugh.
Yes.
She wanted to leave $50,000 to Phyllis Gable.
Yes.
She wanted to leave $100,000 to Kathy Johansson.
Yes.
John, I'm going to object that the document she's reading from isn't intended.
He's testifying he has knowledge about what I'm asking about, and I assume this document's going to be coming in at some point.
But I think it needs to be admitted into evidence if she's going to read from it and testify about it.
Can you cite me to a rule that says what the attorney is using as the basis for questions has to be in evidence?
So she's actually, I guess my issue, she's actually reading from a document that's not in evidence.
Okay, I hear you. It may be something you want to tender on redirect, but if that's not what Clark Palmer chooses to do right now, it may be that you're entitled to see what she's reading from. You can work through that. All right, you can keep going.
All right, $200,000 plus $100,000 plus $50,000 is $350,000. Right?
Correct.
All right, and you told us you think that Diane McIver had approximately $400,000 in cash when she died.
Yes.
So that would be approximately $50,000 more than is needed to satisfy these bequests.
Correct.
Okay. But even after she died, Mr. McIver still needed to pay the condominium fees, right?
Correct.
If he wanted to live there.
Correct.
Pay the utilities.
Correct.
Right? Okay. And you said that Mr. McIver did not know where Diane McIver's bank accounts were, what bank they were at.
As far as I know, I believe that to be a true statement.
Okay. And you had to share with Mr. McIver information about where her bank accounts were, what bank they were with, right?
Correct.
What the account numbers were? Did you have to tell him that?
If he knew, I don't remember if I shared that
Okay.
information, so I don't know.
Okay. Did you share the log-on information with him?
No.
Okay.
Well, the accounts were closed. As soon as she died, the bank literally froze the accounts. We couldn't even get to them online. I mean, they literally locked those accounts down.
Right. We talked a little bit about DRS Enterprises, or is it just DRS?
DRS Investments.
Okay, DRS Investments. And you are aware that at the time she died, Mrs. McIver owed money to DRS Investments.
Well, I found out after she died, but I wasn't aware before.
Okay. Well, so let me break that down. Before she died, did you have any involvement in DRS?
Yes.
What was your involvement?
I worked with Richard. I made all the bank deposits. So I knew of the bank deposits. Again, I had online access to the DRS checking account as well. So Richard wrote the checks, and then once a year I did checkbook registers for him and deposit registers. Different than this.
Right.
It was just a different format, but it had the date, the check amount, who the check was to, and what the check was for. A spreadsheet that we did every year for DRS.
And DRS loaned money to Diane McIver or to Clay Management or one of her?
I don't think DRS never loaned money to her in the time that I was there.
Okay. In the time that you were there, did Diane McIver ever give money to DRS through her personal account or through Clay Management?
At the end of the year, there was a money exchange, is what I would say. And it would be registered on here. A check would go to DRS and a check would come back to Clay Management. So there was some money exchange. I don't know what it was for.
All right. And did you ever see any loan documents between Mrs. McIver or Clay Management and DRS?
No.
Okay. But you found out after she died that she owed $975,000 approximately to DRS Investments?
Yes.
Okay. And they were asking for that to be paid back to them? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay.
I do know.
After Mr. well, after Mrs. McIver died, did you have any part in her estate? Were you hired by her estate?
No.
Okay. Were you asked to be part of her estate?
Yes.
Okay. Did you volunteer to say, hey, I could help out, I know about her finances?
I did volunteer to continue to run Clay Management because I did understand that, and Tex gave me the approval to continue to run, so we kept Clay Management separate from the estate until he was arrested.
Okay.
And then after he was arrested, the Clay Management piece was then also transitioned to Tammy.
Okay. And that's something that you volunteered to do to keep working on Clay
Yes.
Management?
Yes.
And working with Mr. McIver as he administered Diane's estate?
Correct.
Okay. You have been interviewed before by various people about this case, correct?
Yes, I have.
You have spoken to the police officers?
Only one.
One?
I think Darren, I think it was Darren Smith, but only one.
Okay. And you have also spoken to people from the district attorney's office?
I have.
Did they interview you sometime in early 2017?
I'm sure they did.
Do you remember being interviewed by them?
A lot.
A lot?
Yes.
How many times?
I would say at least 10.
At least 10 times?
Yes.
When was the first time you remember being interviewed by them?
They came to the office, so I would think sometime in October of 2016 was the first time.
Okay. And when do you think the next time was after that? Would it have still been in 2016 or in 2017?
It was still been in 16.
All right. And then, were you interviewed again sometime after January 2017 by the district attorney's office?
I know I've been in the DA's office in the last month a couple times. But after January of 2017, I don't know.
Okay.
I just don't remember.
Do you remember meeting with an African-American woman from the DA's office and being interviewed by her? Investigator Jackson, Terry Jackson.
I don't remember her. So if I was interviewed by her, I don't remember. The only police officer that I remember talking to person, was a guy. I think his name was Darren Smith.
Okay, so but separate from the police officers, talking about the district attorney's office now, do you remember being interviewed by people from their office?
Yeah, when they came to the office the first time, there were 6 or 7 or 8 of them, so she could have been in that room. They all said who they were and they all gave me their card, but...
Let me ask it this way. You told us that you had a meeting with Mr. McIver in approximately October 2016 where y'all talked about Mrs. McIver's finances.
Correct.
After that, were you interviewed by people with the district attorney's office?
Yes.
Okay. And when you were interviewed subsequently, after October 2016, did you tell them that you had had that meeting with Mr. McIver about Diane McIver's finances? Was that one of the things you discussed?
If they would have asked me, I would have told them. I mean, it wasn't a secret I was doing it. I mean, everybody in the office knew I was doing it. So if they asked me, I would have told them. But if they specifically asked me, I don't know. But it was not a secret that it was happening.
Okay. At that time, when you talked to them, after you met with Mr. McIver in October 2016, did you tell them the comment he made about Janie Calhoun?
I told them that recently because it's when it came to my mind.
You didn't tell them about it before?
No.
It was only recently?
Yes.
And recently, you mean in the past month, maybe?
Yes.
All right. That was not something you had discussed with the district attorney's office before?
I didn't tell anybody.
Okay.
Because I just didn't.
Okay. You jumped ahead of my next question.
Okay, yeah.
You didn't tell Janie Calhoun?
No.
Right.
I've told her.
Talked to her
She
since?
knows now.
Yes.
Yes. But no, I didn't even tell my partner. I didn't tell anybody.
Okay. And you were asked by a lot of different people about your observations of Mr. and Mrs. McIver's relationship.
Yes.
And you told us about how you socialized with them sometimes.
Yes.
Right? And you saw Mrs. McIver on a daily basis.
Yes.
Yes. And you observed that they had a good marriage.
I believe that to be true, yes.
And you believe that they truly loved each other.
I do.
Okay, thank you. I have just a moment, Your Honor.
You may.
All right, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Abate, any follow-up for Mr. Brown?
Just a few questions, Judge. Mr. Brown, did you ever see Ms. McIver pick at the defendant in a not pleasant way?
I think that's outside the scope of cross.
I
And ask
think
about
it is
communications between.
Well, I find it to be not outside the scope of cross, especially on how cross just ended. So you can ask the question, maybe to repeat it. I don't know that, well, you don't, have you heard the question?
We can't hear him.
Let's use that microphone. Or angle yourself towards the jury. They can't hear you.
I'll speak louder.
All right.
Mr. Brown, did you ever see Ms. McIver pick at the defendant in an unpleasant way?
I don't think so.
And on cross, Ms. Clark Palmer asked you about the comment Mr. McIver made about winning Janie back. Why didn't you tell anyone?
I just didn't. I didn't think it was I just didn't. I didn't think it was an appropriate thing to say. And Janie was already having issues living next door. She would cry when she got off the elevator. I just didn't think it was one more thing that she needed to have to worry about. She had enough going on already. We all did.
And I heard you say you didn't think it was an appropriate thing to say. Why do you say that?
Well, I just didn't. Just because it's.
Objection. He's answered, he doesn't think it's appropriate. I don't know the relevance of going on.
Sustain.
Now, a lot of Ms. Clark Palmer brought up that you had met with the police officers, a police officer, and then the district attorney's office several times. Were the majority of those meetings about Ms. McIver's finances?
Yes.
And were you attempting to help members of the DA's office understand all the aspects of Mrs. McIver's finances?
Yes.
Objection to leading, Your Honor.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Now, on cross, Ms. Clark Palmer talked about, I think she said $975,000 that Ms. McIver owed to DRS. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Were you aware that Ms. McIver had a $1 million Keyman life insurance policy to cover that?
I found out after she was deceased, yes.
Okay. And that policy did that policy cover the $975,000 debt to DRS?
The check that was received was more than $975,000.
And how much was the check for?
The check was $1,028 and some change.
Now, did you know that Ms. McIver had a safe in her condo?
I did,
And where was that safe in her condo?
in her closet.
Okay. And did you know what was in the safe?
I did not.
And did you ever have an opportunity to see inside the safe?
I did.
Okay, can you tell the jury about when?
Well, I guess now I object, because now I think we're outside the scope of my cross. I'm going to ask about the condo or the safe.
Okay. I still think it's germane to what was covered in direct and then in cross, and so now we're back on redirect. So, you may continue.
So you can answer the question.
Answer the question again, please.
I'm going to ask it in a shorter way. When did you get an opportunity to see inside the safe?
After Diane was deceased, they wanted the key. I guess nobody knew what the key was. I didn't have the key, so and I don't know where it was, but it must have been found. And I don't know if it.
I'm most happy because I don't want to get in here. I don't want us to get another hearsay objection. So don't tell me what anybody said or did. So the question was, did you get to see the safe?
Yes.
Okay.
Tammy Johnson, Bill Brown, and myself supposedly opened the safe for the first time.
And when the safe was supposedly open for the first time, what was inside of it?
There was a bunch of foreign money and a watch.
And was that all that was inside the safe?
There were a couple other little things. I made a list, but I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was very little in the safe.
And what kind of car did Ms. McIver drive?
Her last car was I think it was a 2014 Jaguar.
And you talked a little bit about on cross the vacations that the McIvers and various members of their friend group took. Tell the jury a little bit about the difference in the vacation if Diane or Ms. McIver was paying and the defendant was paying for it.
Diane only went first class. And Tex didn't usually do first class. So that was kind of the difference.
When you say first class, you talking about a first class plane ticket, or are you talking about first class all the way?
Pretty much all the way. But that included first class plane tickets. If you traveled with her, generally you flew first class.
And did that mean the best hotels?
There were some pretty nice places, so yeah, I would say yes.
Okay. The best restaurants?
I'd say I would agree with that also, yes.
Fun or the best entertainment?
I would, yes.
Okay. And that was different, or was that different, if Mr. McIver, or the defendant, was planning the vacation?
I just know they didn't always fly first class. Outside of that, the activities and where they stayed, I generally didn't know. Diane never complained, so that's all I can tell you.
Okay. We talked a little bit about, I'm not going to go into great detail, but at the beginning of Ms. Clark Palmer's cross, she showed you several pages and lines of the Amex bill, or the American Express bill. Can you tell the jury what the bill would range for, what the range of the bill would be month by month?
No, I mean, it was generally more than 5,000, generally less than 20,000 a month. But that was basically the only card she used. And we used it for business as well. So they were company charges on our credit card as well.
Which was between 5,000 and 20,000?
I would say that was...
And if it was 20,000, did she pay the entire bill off
Yes.
that month?
Yes.
Okay. And she had the ability to do that?
Yes.
Now, you talked a little bit about the meeting where Mr. McIver said something about the amount of cash or money in her account. Do you remember talking to Ms. Palmer about that?
Correct.
Now, did you know at the time whether Mr. McIver was working or not?
I did not.
Okay. Did you know what his position, what did you believe? Let me ask a better question. Where did Mr. McIver work?
Fisher and Phillips.
Okay. And when you met with him in October, were you under the understanding that he was still working at Fisher and Phillips?
He told me he was on leave.
Okay. And though on leave, what did you believe his position to be at Fisher and Phillips?
I never knew his position changed from when I first met him in 2010 till today.
Okay. So in 2010 till today, what was your understanding that his position was?
I thought he was a partner in the firm.
Okay. And you still believe that today?
Yes.
One second. Do you know whether or not in October the defendant paid for his wife's cremains?
Okay.
Stop. So okay is not an objection though, but that pause thing, I gave you one where you just went, and I said it's the same, but you need to do a little more. Tell me, we pause.
And we all pause well.
I'm sorry. I would object. I'm still lodging my outside the scope of cross objection, but also relevance. And I'm not sure we've established the foundation as to whether this witness would know that.
I'm gonna give her 2 out of 3. She only needed 1, so I'm gonna sustain the objection.
Can I respond to one?
You sure?
It's inside the scope of cross, because of the meetings that they spoke about and the money that was received from her estate.
Okay.
And as the executor, as Ms. Clark-Palmer brought up, that would be part of his duties to pay for.
What would be the non-hearsay foundation for this witness to know the answer? In other words, if it didn't come from the mouth of Mr. Macgyver, how is this witness going to know in a non-hearsay way?
I think, well, can I rephrase the question?
Okay.
Did Mr. Macgyver tell you whether or not he paid for the cremains of Ms. Macgyver in October of 2016?
No, he did not tell me.
No further questions.
Very brief recross.
As long as everyone appreciates we're not setting a precedent for recross, but given the nature of what we've been talking about, you may have very brief recross.
You mentioned the last car that Mrs. Macgyver was driving was a 2014 Jaguar.
Correct.
Is that one that she was making payments on?
No, she didn't make payments on the cars.
Was that a gift from Mr. Macgyver to Mrs. Macgyver?
It was.
Okay, thank you.
All right. If there are questions from jurors for Mr. Brown, write them down and pass them to your left. Deputy Murphy will collect them. Take your time, but imagine the Jeopardy music playing. It's not an infinite amount of time. Thank you. Mr. Brown. Get these.
The one that was tilted up goes into the ask. That was the one we discussed.
Okay. Okay. Ready?
Yep.
The work you did for Mrs. Macgyver as personal assistant, all these things we've heard about, buying the clothes and the personal side of the Amex, etc. Were you paid for that separate and apart from U.S. Enterprises work, or explain to the jury how compensation worked for you?
For all of us. I had to charge my time for the work that I did. So if I did work for her personal, I charged my time. I did a timesheet at the end of every month, and I had to break down the hours. I had to account for my 40 hours a week, and I had to bill somebody for 40 hours a week. And at the end of the month, we did a timesheet, and then the companies billed the person or the people or the other companies to reimburse U.S. Enterprises for my salary. U.S. Enterprise paid my salary. I did my timesheet. If I worked for Diane Macgyver personal, there would be a number of hours. They had an hourly rate that they charged her for the time that I did, and then she wrote a check back to them, to U.S. Enterprises, to pay for the time I spent working for her personal.
So you did not receive additional salary
No.
beyond what U.S. Enterprises paid you for example, planning the trip to
Correct.
Sedona?
Correct. No,
Okay.
I was on a time clock. I punched a time clock, and I was paid based on the hours I worked and charged my time back to appropriate companies or people, or however that worked.
Okay. Austin's last name is Schwal.
Correct.
His parents' relationship with Ms. McIver or Mr. McIver, friends, relatives?
Friends.
You discussed one of your roles being debt collector if people were behind on making loan payments to Ms. McIver. Did Mr. McIver ever not make timely payments to Ms. McIver?
No.
You named several other people who had received loans from Ms. McIver. What size were those loans, if you recall?
Two of them were cars. So the one car was like $15,000, the other car was $18,000, and one was a home loan that was, I think, $60,000. So those were the ranges. There were some other personal loans that were under $10,000.
Were any of those loans, car, home, personal, interest only, like the one you described, made to Mr. McIver?
No, that was the only one.
Can you repeat, please, the names of the people who went through the two filing cabinets in the back room of Ms. McIver's office at U.S. Enterprises?
Yes. Angie Brooks, Ken Rickard, and Mr. Corey.
Do you have firsthand knowledge, not someone told you, but firsthand knowledge as to where the contents of those filing cabinets are now?
I know they left the office in a pickup truck. That's the best I know.
You saw that happen?
I helped load the pickup truck.
You helped load the pickup. Was this the one you mentioned where you were put in boxes that were also out in the hallway that were Ms. McIver's
Yes.
belongings from her office?
Yes.
Okay.
They were put in a pickup truck and hauled off.
And the names of the people who were doing the hauling were?
Dixie Martin and Tammy Johnson.
Are you aware of any other investments that Ms. McIver had? You mentioned that you heard about an insurance policy, and there was the money market account. Are you aware of other investments that she had?
She participated in the 401k at our company, and she had a personal life insurance policy that she also carried.
Okay.
Best of my knowledge, that's it.
Mr. Abate, any follow-up based on those questions?
Just one, Your Honor. One.
You don't fool me. I didn't buy it when you said one.
Do you see Miss Dixie Martin in the courtroom here today?
I do.
Okay. And the 401k, do you know the amount?
I do not.
Okay. And then the life insurance policy that you were just talking about, do you know the amount of that?
I don't.
You don't.
I mean, I think I have a ballpark, but I don't know the exact amount, no.
What do you think or what is the ballpark?
I think it was close to 600,000.
Nothing better.
Ms. Clark-Palmer, anything in connection with these questions?
Thank you, Judge. Just to get the timeline on the boxes and the cabinet nailed down.
Okay.
After Diane died, Angie Brooks, who is the, what's her position at Corey?
Executive Vice President.
And Mr. Corey, and Ken Rickard, who is the lawyer for Corey.
Correct.
Right? They all went through the cabinets in Diane's bathroom.
I was out of the office that day, so that's...
Okay. So you didn't see that?
No, I didn't see it happen.
Okay, all right. The cabinets were gone through, and then whatever was in the cabinets ended up in boxes.
As well as everything in our office. That was
Okay.
hers. Yes.
And after that was done, Dixie Martin and Tammy Johnson came and picked up the boxes and left with them.
Somehow they got to the garage, and I can't answer how that happened,
Sure.
because they picked them up out of the garage. I think James, you actually took them from the hallway and put them in the garage. And Tammy and Dixie came with the pickup truck, and we loaded it up in the truck, and they
Okay.
took them.
And this question was asked kind of, I think, in the negative, so I just want to be clear. Mr. McIver always made his loan payments on time,
Yes.
okay? And he was the only one who had an interest-only loan.
Yes.
But Mrs. McIver wasn't married to the other people she had made loans to.
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Which person is Mr. McIver's sister?
And the blue, purple, whatever color you would call that.
All right, thank you. May Mr. Brown step down?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next witness.
State will call Elaine Williams.
Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you should give the court today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do affirm.
Yes, ma'am, if you will, have a seat. Get as close to the mic as you can. For the purposes of the court record, please state and spell your name.
Elaine Williams, Elaine Williams.
Excuse me 1 second while you get yourself adjusted. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Try to speak very clearly into the microphone. That way you won't have to repeat your answers, okay?
Okay.
Nice and loud.
Very loud.
Okay. Can you introduce yourself to the jurors by restating your name and tell them how you are currently employed?
My name is Elaine Williams, and I am currently employed with U.S. Enterprises, better known as Corey Airport Services.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors how long have you been employed by U.S. Enterprises?
I've been employed 20 years.
And what is your current position there?
I am a legal assistant to the attorney,
And who is the attorney?
Kenneth Rickard.
And do you have any formal training to do the work that you do as a paralegal?
Yes, I graduated from Barry University in Miami with paralegal status certification.
Okay. And as a paralegal for Mr. Rickard, what kinds of work do you do?
I perform wills, corporate documents, complaints. We do collections law, civil, real estate, entertainment, you name it, we do it.
Okay. You and Mr. Rickard, is it fair to say, operate kind of like an in-house law firm for U.S. Enterprises?
Yes, he is the in-house counsel.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors a little bit about U.S. Enterprises, like, in a nutshell, like what is it and what do they do?
Oh, wow. U.S. Enterprises is a conglomerate of different companies. We were very active in the airport advertising industry as well as the outdoor billboard advertising. We have also been in the video games, corporate real estate, commercial real estate, very active.
And about how many different individual companies are under the U.S. Enterprises umbrella?
Over the 20 years that I've been there, probably 25, maybe 30.
Okay. The owner of U.S. Enterprises is whom?
William E. Corey.
William E. Corey, better known as?
Billy Corey.
Billy Corey. Would Mr. Rickard be your direct supervisor?
Yes, he is.
And if you've been at U.S. Enterprises for 20 years, was he there when you got there?
Yes, he was.
Now, can you tell the jurors, did you come to know a person by the name of Diane Macgyver?
Yes, I did.
Did you know that to be her full name?
Yes.
when you would address her, what would you call her?
Diane.
Okay. And can you explain for the jurors, how is it that you came to know Mrs. McIver?
I worked with her. She was, even though Kenneth Rickard, the attorney, is my direct boss, we take and took instructions from Diane Macgyver because she was the president of the company.
Okay. And can you give the jurors your relationship with Ms. McIver? How would you characterize it professionally?
Professionally, we were very professional. However, we had a side relationship as well.
Okay. Tell the jurors what you mean by that.
We would talk about things outside of the office, as ladies do. I went through sorry. I went through several crises during the time that I worked there. And our relationship expanded beyond everyday work. She was someone that I could talk to, someone that counseled and consoled me when my father passed. I had breast cancer, and she requested that I go on part-time duty. It was not something that I had to ask for. She suggested it. So she knew me, and she knew personal things about me. So that made our relationship a little different than just an everyday president of the company. She knew employees' names, she knew their children's names, their husband's names. She was very involved with her employees, some more than others.
Some tissue there if you need.
I brought my own.
Sorry, came prepared.
Yes, I tried. I said I wasn't going to do it, but sorry.
All right, if you need to take a break, let me know, all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
Okay. Can you tell the jurors the way in which you shared the intimate personal details of your life outside the company? Can you tell the jurors, did Diane Macgyver likewise do the same to you?
Yes.
Share the intimate personal details of her life outside the company?
To a certain extent, yes, she did.
Explain that.
The other part that I left out was my daughter in 2014 had a tumor that had to be removed from her jaw, and they had to take a bone out of her leg. Diane became very involved with my daughter, with her care and what she was going through. And she had watched me take care of my dad for 6 years. And she came to me one day and she said...
Hold on one second. Let me stop you for a second, okay? Because as a paralegal, you understand the concept of hearsay, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me see if I can direct you a little bit better. Is it fair to say that with respect to your daughter's situation, Diane Macgyver kind of jumped in?
Yes.
And she provided you with some help?
Yes.
Was the help financial help?
To some extent, yes.
Okay. And also emotional support?
Definitely.
Okay. Now, you said that she would share the intimate personal details of her life with you To a certain extent.
Yes.
What do you mean to a certain extent?
She was a businesswoman. She was very professional, but she was not Florence Nightingale.
Speak to the microphone just a little bit. Say that again.
I said she was a very professional woman, but she was not Florence Nightingale.
What do you mean by that?
One of the things that she said she admired about me was the fact that I did not have a problem taking care of someone else, that I found it very easy. She, on the other hand, was a businesswoman, and she did not like taking care of sick people.
The relationship that you shared with Diane Macgyver, it developed over the course of the 20 years that you worked with her?
Yes.
And with your personal conversations about things, would you discuss with her, say for instance, the personal, intimate details of what was going on in, say, your marriage? Did you discuss that with her?
I would say things like I could knock my husband out sometimes. He gets on my nerves. Normal things.
Okay. Would you also discuss the intimate personal details, say with Mrs. Macgyver, of your finances, your financial situation?
Yes.
Okay.
She knew.
Okay. Can you tell us, in the course of your 20-year relationship with her, would she discuss the intimate personal details of her marriage with you?
She shared some information with me in reference to, and I did not take it in a derogatory way. As I said, she was not Florence Nightingale. She had a problem taking care of her husband at one point when he had surgery.
Okay.
And she shared that with me.
Okay. So I understand that's one reference. But over the course of 20 years, let me ask you this. How many times do you think during the course of a week you would see Diane Macgyver?
Every day.
Every day. And was she the kind of person that took a whole lot of time off from work?
No.
Were you the kind of person that took a whole lot of time off from work?
No.
So over the course of 20 years, would she share with you, say over the last 10 years, like intimate personal details of her marriage to the defendant? Did she share that with you?
Just when he had his surgery, she said that she was tired of...
Let's not get into the specifics.
Mm-hmm. You understand, because you can't tell us what she said.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
That's the only circumstance that comes to your mind?
Yes.
How about the intimate personal details of the financial situation between herself and the defendant? Did she discuss that with you?
Not directly. That was more discussed with Mr. Rickard. I, being his paralegal, there were certain things that was discussed in reference to the finance part of the loan.
You're just talking about the loan?
Yes.
Okay. And we're going to get to that in a minute.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Take a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
I'm good.
Let me see you do it. Take a deep breath.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. This is what I'm talking about. For 10 years, did Diane Macgyver say anything to you that was like intimate, personal, about the financial situation on a day-to-day basis between herself and the defendant?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Slightly different question, Judge.
It's a little different, but try this and then we're going to move on to other things.
I understand.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to talk about the loan.
Okay.
I'm talking about like you saw her every day. So on a daily basis, did she say anything to you that was personal and intimate about her financial situation with the defendant?
Same objection, Your Honor.
Well, she didn't answer it, so this is the time.
Okay. Other than, as I stated before, it was more or less to do with the production of the loan documents.
So would your answer be no?
Yes.
Okay. Did Diane McIver have any children?
No, she did not, of her own.
Did you know her to have parents who were living?
No.
Did you know her to have any blood siblings that were living?
Yes, and I retract that. Her mother passed while I was working there, yes.
Okay. So her mother passed while you were working there?
Yes.
Okay.
And her brother.
And her brother?
Yes.
So as of the date of her death, did you know her to have any blood siblings?
I think there was a cousin. That's all I'm aware of.
No brothers and sisters?
No.
Okay. How would you describe Diane McIver as a businesswoman?
A go-getter, ruthless.
Ruthless?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you say that?
Because she was the type, once she set her goal on establishing a business, she stayed focused and she went after it, and she was determined that she was going to do it.
And how would you describe her attitude or her demeanor or her personality when she was dealing with business?
Strictly business.
Would her conversation, the things that she said, I don't want you to tell us what she said, but can you tell us descriptively if the things that she said reflected the way you described her as a businesswoman, which is kind of go-getter and ruthless?
Yes.
How would you describe, I'm going to call it her tongue?
Sharp.
If you know what I mean.
Sharp.
Sharp. Mm-hmm. Was she the kind of person who cared whether she hurt your feelings or not when she was talking to you about business?
No.
And you know that, don't you?
Yes, I've been on the other end.
Right. And so when that occurred, what did you do?
Sometimes I'd retaliate in my own way.
Okay.
I would go to her after our meeting and we'd have a little powwow personally.
Okay. What would you say to her about the way she was talking to you?
That it was very ugly.
And you were her friend, right?
Yeah.
In the time that you were there with her at U.S. Enterprises, did you ever see her speak that way to others?
Yes.
How about to Ken Rickard?
Yes.
How about Richard Harrell, who was the COO of the company? How about Angie Brooks?
Somewhat.
Terry Brown?
Not as much.
How about her husband?
I object. I'm not sure we've established a foundation of whether Ms. Williams would have seen Ms. McIver and Mr. McIver talking.
Well, I guess this will answer that question. I find this to be sufficiently foundational. Do you remember the question?
Repeat it, please. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Would you have ever seen, or does any occasion come to your mind where Diane McIver would speak in the way that you have just described to us, that ugly way, to her husband?
No, I never saw that.
Now, did you also have the occasion to socialize with Diane McIver?
Yes, I've been at her house a number of times.
And which house are you talking about?
More so the first house that she had prior to her marriage to Mr. McIver.
Okay. And where was that house located?
In Conyers on Harvest Drive.
Okay. And did you ever have the occasion to visit at the condominiums here in Atlanta?
Yes, I did.
Okay. How about the ranch out in Putnam County?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And was Diane McIver the same kind of person that you've been talking about when she's doing business as she was in social settings?
Not with me, and not because I took children. So she was not sharp-tongued.
You took what?
Children.
Children?
Yes.
You took children where?
To her ranch.
What was the occasion?
She sponsored 100 children from my church for a day at the ranch.
And did that occur one time?
Yes.
And do you recall what year that was?
2006.
2006.
Yes.
It was right after her marriage to the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. Now, did you ever attend any parties with Diane McIver?
We did Christmas parties at her house every year in Harvest Drive. We did the Christmas parties at the condo. We did not do our office Christmas party at the ranch.
You did not?
No.
Where was that done?
Different locations.
Okay. Did you know Diane McIver to drink alcohol or wine?
Wine.
Wine.
Yes.
Do you know if it was red or white?
Red.
Red. Now, at those parties, those social events, did you have occasion to see her interact with her husband?
At the outing for the children, somewhat, but Mr. Macgyver was doing other things with the children. He was taking them on hay rides, with the tractor.
Okay. And so, in the course of your relationship with Diane McIver, how often would you say you've had the opportunity to see her interact with her husband, socially?
Socially, outside of the office, probably only 2 or 3 times.
And what were your observations about the way they interacted, those 2 to 3 times that you did see them?
They didn't really interact.
What do you mean?
They were separate rooms doing separate things, entertaining different people.
Okay. In your experiences there at U.S. Enterprises, have you ever seen Mrs. McIver interact with her husband professionally, business-wise, in your presence?
Yes.
On how many occasions?
Numerous occasions. His law firm handled the airport case that we had, so he was in and out of the office all the time.
In this airport case, what was it about?
Objections are relevant, Your Honor.
Only because we've heard a lot about the airport case, and the defense counsel has brought out that Mr. McIver is in photographs hanging on the walls of Corey in celebration of an airport case. So,
If it concerns the defense, it's a valid objection.
Sure.
One of those, you can make it, I don't know if you should, but they did, sustain it.
okay. Can you describe for the jurors the interactions between the defendant, and Mrs. McIver professionally doing business?
Professionally doing business, that's what it was, professionally.
So what do you mean? How do you describe what you saw?
Well, because of what we were working on or dealing with, that's what he was at the office for, and that's what the whole surrounding group was pertaining to, was the litigation.
Okay, so how would you describe the way they interacted with each other?
Very professional.
Was there someone at the company that would assist Diane McIver with her day-to-day calendar and finances?
Yes.
Who would that have been?
Terry Brown.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, was there someone at the company who would assist Diane McIver with her professional business needs?
Yes. Ken Rickard.
Ken Rickard.
Yes.
And what kinds of, in that connection, would you also participate sometimes with Mr. Rickard?
Yes.
What kinds of business professional things would you and Mr. Rickard assist Diane McIver with?
There were different occasions when she would purchase real estate properties, and we would prepare all the documents and everything for it. We do the closing, the actual closing of the documents, and whatever else she asked us.
Okay. And at some point in time, did you become aware of the fact that Diane McIver was working on her will?
Yes.
Okay. And when did you become aware of the fact that Diane McIver was working on her will?
We were asked to do a codicil,
And who is we?
Mr. Rickard and myself.
Okay. And that request was made by whom?
By Diane McIver to Attorney Ken Rickard.
Okay. And at the time that this request was made to Mr. Rickard, did you know whether or not Diane McIver had a will already in existence?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors what is your best recollection about the time frame under which Diane McIver would have requested Mr. Rickard to assist her in making changes to her will?
It was 2007.
2007. Would that have been before or after the birth of Austin Swall? If you know.
I'm not certain. I think it was after his birth, and I'm not sure.
And if this was in 2007, when do you believe Austin Swall's year of birth was?
I think he's 11, so it may have been 2007.
So that would have been right when he was born.
Yes.
Were you aware of, let's strike that, let me ask you a better question. How would you describe Diane McIver's interactions and feelings for Austin Swall?
She was like a mother to him. He was her child.
Would she bring him to the corporate offices?
Yes. We had live baby screens during meetings.
Okay, you said live baby screens.
Yes, live.
Okay. She would actually bring him when he was just a little baby.
Yes, we had a baby bed, a playpen, yes.
Okay, so that would have been around the time that she was talking to Mr. Rickard or making requests of him to make changes to her will?
I think so, yes.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, as young Austin began to grow and develop, would he still be brought to the office by Ms. McIver?
Yes, he had a job.
He had a job. Okay. All the way up until really the date of her death?
Yes.
Now, can you tell the jurors after 2007, did you participate in any attempts to change Ms. McIver's will after this 2007 request?
No, I did not.
Can you tell the jurors whether or not the, first of all, in simple terms, what is a codicil?
Codicil is like an amendment to your will.
Okay. And who actually drafted the codicil, prepared it?
I would object, if we're getting into the codicil that happened in 2007, would object to the relevance of that.
What's the relevance as to who, we may have already heard who drafted it from an earlier answer, but what's the relevance to something from 11 years ago?
First, I didn't think that we had established who drafted it, but it's going to show that Ms. McIver often did personal business with Mr. Rickard.
Okay.
Mr. Rickard would have been in a position to...
I'll let you repeat the question you just asked. We're not getting into whatever the content was.
Okay.
No, I'm asking that.
No.
Okay. All right. Then you may repeat your question or something close to it.
Okay. Who drafted the codicil in 2007?
Attorney Ken Rickard instructed me to draft it.
So it was you?
I typed it up and he drafted it, yes.
Okay. And do you know whether or not it was ever signed by Diane McIver?
To my knowledge, no.
Now, in the years close in time to her death, can you tell the jurors, and I'm not asking you to tell us what, if anything, Diane McIver would have said to you, but can you tell us whether or not she had any conversations with you personally about making any changes to her will?
No, she did not.
Were you present when Diane McIver would have had any conversations with Ken Rickard about making changes to her will?
No, I was not.
Can you tell the jurors, were you aware about the significance of 2 file cabinets that were located or that were in the bathroom area of Diane McIver's office?
I object to the question about the significance of the bathroom cabinets. Did you hear the significance of the bathroom cabinets?
Okay, why don't we start with just their existence?
Were you aware of the existence of file cabinets in Diane McIver's office?
Yes, I was.
Did those file cabinets have any significance?
I'm not sure what was in them. I know they were her personal items.
Okay. Do you know whether or not those file cabinets were kept locked or not?
Yes, they were.
Were you present in the office in the days after her death when attempts were made to get into those file cabinets?
I was in the office, but I was not a party to it.
Okay. You were not a party to it?
No.
Okay. How did you find out that something had happened to Diane McIver?
I received a phone call as I was leaving home.
On what day?
Monday, September 27th.
Okay. Is it possible that Monday could have been the 26th?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, did you have any conversations with Diane McIver in the Sunday or Saturday right before her death?
That Friday was the last time I spoke to her.
Okay. And do you recall where you were when you spoke to her?
Yes, I was in my office and she was walking by.
Okay. At the time she was walking by, did you know where she was going?
Yes, she was preparing to go to the ranch, from my understanding.
And was she going to the ranch alone?
No, she was not.
And can you tell the jurors who was she going to the ranch with?
Her husband, Tex McIver, and Danny, Joe Carter.
And over the years, you had come to know Danny Joe?
Yes, somewhat.
Somewhat?
Yes.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors on the Friday, which would have been what date? I just don't want to put it in your mouth. If Monday was the 26th.
The 24th. 23rd, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You didn't know this was going to be a quiz.
I didn't.
That's okay.
It's Friday, September the 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been the last day that you would have seen Diane McIver alive.
Yes.
Would that have also been the last day that you would have talked to her
Yes.
and that she would have talked to you?
Yes.
Do you recall about what time it was when you saw her walk by?
I would say probably about 4-ish in the afternoon, but I had seen her around 2:20 that afternoon. I
Okay.
had some words with her.
Okay. And so, do you know who Gail Meadows is?
Yes, I do.
Who was Gail?
She was the receptionist.
Okay. And did you have a conversation with Gail about Diane McIver's husband coming to the office on the day before, Thursday?
Objection. hearsay. And I think it was a leading question as well.
I'm all right with the leading or not, but how,
I'm not asking her what, I'm just asking her if she had a conversation.
Questions
yeah,
suggested the content of the conversation.
right. So I'll
Okay.
just,
Okay. I'll try to rephrase it. But I understand the court is sustaining the objection.
correct.
Okay, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
You talked to Gail Meadows.
Yes, I did.
Did you talk to her on Thursday or Friday?
Thursday.
And after you talked to Gail Meadows on Thursday, did you see Diane Macgyver on Friday afternoon about 2 o'clock?
Yes, I did.
And when you saw Diane Macgyver on Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock, where did you see her?
She was seated in her office.
And how is it that you came to see her sitting in her office?
I was coming up the hallway past her office, and she was seated there, and I actually walked past her and realized that something was not right, and I backed up and had some words with her.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors when you, did you look at Diane Macgyver?
Yes, I did.
With your own two eyes?
Yes.
And when you looked at Diane Macgyver, can you explain to the jurors what you saw?
Your Honor, may I ask sort of a pre-objection, just without offering an opinion about what was
Right, I'm now familiar with the area we've reached, and it was subject to some pretrial motions and some assurances from the state. So I trust you will navigate these
Yes, sir.
waters carefully.
And so, before you give an answer, please don't give any opinion about what you saw. I just want you to describe for us, in as much detail as you can, what you saw. You understand the distinction?
Yes.
Okay. Ken?
She was distraught. Is what I saw. And I asked her,
Okay. What did you ask her? What did you ask her?
I asked her what was wrong.
Okay. How long did that exchange or did that experience with Diane Macgyver last on that Friday afternoon at 2 p.m.? How long were you in her office?
I would say a minute or two.
Okay. And then a couple of hours later, is that the last time you saw her as she walked past your office?
At about 4-ish that afternoon, yes.
Okay. As far as you understood, headed to the ranch
Yes.
with her husband
Yes.
and Danny Joe.
Yes.
Now, did you see the defendant and Danny Joe at the office?
Yes.
Where were they?
Where my office is seated is right in the front, so anyone coming in the front door or coming up the hallways, there's an open area right there, so everyone sees whomever is going in that direction.
Okay. Did you actually see all three of them leave together?
Yes, I did.
You understand about the hearsay objections, right? You can't tell us what Diane Macgyver said to you.
Yes.
But I do want to ask you a question. Can you tell us what was the last thing you said to her?
That I loved her.
Okay. I'll preface this next question, Judge, with an agreement that counsel and I believe have reached with respect to no objection to me asking a question of Ms. Williams to elicit a response from Diane Macgyver, and it's just this one response that we agreed to.
If you adhere to it, I suspect we won't have anyone jumping up.
Okay.
Go forward, see what happens.
Okay. During the course of your relationship with Diane Macgyver, can you tell the jurors what is the worst thing? What is the worst thing that Diane Macgyver told you could ever happen to her?
Is not having enough money to live off of.
She said that to you?
She said that to me, and about 8 other people were in the room at the time.
For her not to have enough money to live on is the worst thing that could ever happen to her.
Yes.
In the times that you have seen the defendant come to the office to work on professional matters, can you tell the jurors, was there ever an occasion that he came to the office and did not speak to anyone? That you know of?
There have been times that he's come to the office and didn't speak to me.
Okay.
But it depends. Do I continue?
You keep talking until someone says stop.
Okay. There were times he might be running in for something, and so I didn't take it personal.
He wouldn't speak to you?
Yes.
But I'm talking about anybody in the office?
No.
Right.
Not to my knowledge.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay.
Let me ask lawyers one.
Sure, but let them finish what they're
Yeah, I'll let
doing,
them
because this, I assume, will streamline the cross-examination. Ms. Clark-Palmer, you
Yeah.
did, but I was waiting, I didn't want Mr. Rucker to have to talk over what you guys were doing. Not that it was noisy, but you had asked for a moment. We in a good spot to continue? All right.
I wanted to ask you this. This is a memory test. I'm going to poke you with a stick. Do you remember how Danny Jo Carter was dressed when you saw her at the office that Friday?
I do.
I think I can connect it up. There's a reason.
I trust there's a reason you asked that.
I just didn't want to say it in front of the jury,
That's
but
okay, no, go ahead. Your
Did you-
response was?
I do.
and can you describe how Ms. Carter was dressed there at the office that Friday?
She had on a shirt that came down in the back and it kind of tailored out, so her back was partially out near the lower part of her back. It's like scalloped away from the body.
Okay. And so you could see her exposed skin,
Yes.
like right above her like butt area.
Yes.
I'll say it, but yeah, okay.
Yes.
And as you sit here today, can you tell the jurors, does that stick out in your mind?
It did.
And did you see Mr. Macgyver there when you made these observations of Danny Jo Carter?
So stop for a second, but you may not have seen, Ms. Clark-Palmer popped up.
I'm not ready to say anything yet, but I'm.
She's in position. All right, eggshells here. Here's the question, was Mr. Macgyver around when you saw Ms. Carter?
He came around the corner
Okay,
as she was passing
Okay.
across my office site.
okay. And, you know, and the jury really hadn't seen a whole bunch of pictures of the Corey office yet, but if you had to estimate, how close would you say Mr. Macgyver was to Danny Jo Carter when you made the observation about the shirt that exposed the skin above her butt?
Maybe 2 to 3 feet.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you whether or not you actually looked at Mr. Macgyver's face at this time.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to relevance. And need to explain further, I'd like to do it at the bench.
Let's do that. Mr. Rucker, if you had anything else, you may continue.
I do not. Thank you, Judge.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
You're welcome.
Ms. Clark-Palmer?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Williams, my name is Amanda Clark Palmer. I represent Mr. McIver. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I understand that you have known Diane McIver for quite some time, correct?
Correct.
About 20 years, is that what I heard?
Yes.
And you have known her the entire time she was married to Mr. McIver?
Yes.
Because they, as of the time she died, they had been married for approximately 10 years. Is that about right?
2005, yes.
Okay, 10, 11, whatever the math works out to be. And in the time that she was with Mr. McIver, she went to the ranch on many occasions, correct?
Correct.
Was it every weekend or just about every weekend?
Sometimes 2 or 3 times a month. It
Okay.
depends.
Okay, so maybe not every weekend, but something kind of close to that.
Sometimes.
And she enjoyed spending time out at the ranch, correct?
Yes.
She liked going to the ranch, didn't she?
Yes.
And you told us about seeing Mrs. McIver on that Friday at the Corey building before she left to go to the ranch, correct?
Correct.
And you described her as being distraught.
Yes.
All right. And you have been interviewed by various different people about this case before you came to court today, correct?
Yes.
All right. You have been interviewed by people with the district attorney's office before today, correct?
Correct.
They came out to the Corey offices on one occasion and interviewed yourself, didn't they?
Yes.
And during that visit, you described to them seeing Mrs. McIver on that Friday in the office before she left to go to the ranch.
Correct.
And on another occasion, more recently, when you were interviewed by on another occasion, I don't know when it is, when you were interviewed by somebody with the district attorney's office, you again described for them that occasion that you saw Miss McIver in the office on the Friday before she went to the ranch, right?
Correct.
And you described it that she was staring off into space.
Yes.
Okay. And is that what you meant when you said distraught?
Yes.
Same thing?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, thank you, Ms. Williams.
Any redirect?
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Oops, okay. Well, Mr. Rucker did the same thing.
Staying with that Friday, did you observe Diane McIver and you said Danny Jo Carter came to the office, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And did you observe Diane McIver and Danny Jo Carter? Did they have a glass of wine at the office before they left to go to the ranch?
Not to my knowledge.
You didn't see that?
I didn't see that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Mr. Rucker,
I have no additional questions, Judge.
let's see if the jury has any questions. Yes. Hang in there, Ms. Williams.
I'm good.
Almost done.
All right.
Ms. Williams,
Yes, sir.
do you know if Mr. McIver had the code that one would type in to get the door at Corey U.S. Enterprises to open, so you didn't have to be buzzed in?
Yes.
You described the observing professional interactions between Mr. McIver and Mrs. McIver because he was an attorney for Fisher and Phillips working on some matter. Do you recall any instances when the two were interacting professionally, when there'd be a little break in the action and they would somehow interact in a way that showed they were affectionate to each other?
No.
In connection with what I just said, can you share with the jury your understanding of this airport case and what the nature of the dispute was that Mr. Macgyver's firm was helping U.S. Enterprises or Core Enterprises with?
Okay, there was a lawsuit that was filed pertaining to the airport bid at the Atlanta Hartsfield Airport. It was against Clear Channel and the City of Atlanta, and Fisher and Phillips was our attorneys.
When you say airport bid, who was bidding for what at the airport?
We, Corey Airport Services, which is one of the companies that's under the umbrella of U.S. Enterprises, had actually bid on the airport, and there were some discrepancies in there that caused a lawsuit to be filed.
When you say bid on the airport, not to own the airport or build the new runway, to do what at the airport?
Right. When I speak of the bid, what we did was when you walk into the airport, you see all the flashing billboards and everything with the advertisement on it, car dealerships, colleges, and all that. We were the company that would place all those in there. So if you had gone to Louisville or Cincinnati Airport, Palm Springs Airport, those were some of our airports that had all these things in there, and we were actually bidding for Hartsfield Atlanta Airport.
And some dispute arose over the way the bidding decision was made? Correct. Okay. When you were asked what your last words were to Ms. Macgyver, you shared with the jury what they were. Was that the typical way you ended a conversation with Ms. Macgyver?
Yes. That was a part of our little dialogue. If one was upset with the other, she would say something else in a different context with me, and my remark would be, well, I love you too.
Mr. Rucker, any follow-up with Ms. Williams based on that?
No, sir.
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Clark-Palmer says no either. You are free to go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So before we bring in the next witness, I don't typically share with you all what's written on these questions, not because they're confidential, but some of them may not get asked. But I appreciate that one of them ended with effectively, you better ask this so that no one Googles it tonight. That's the point of the questions. Thank you for posing your questions. Reminder that if you submit a question and it's not asked, it's not evidence that it wasn't asked, your question is not evidence. It just means that, as you've now experienced many times, lawyers can ask questions that prompt other lawyers to stand up and object. And if I sustain it, it means there was a problem with that question. All in due time. We can take an afternoon break now. We can get partway through whoever the next witness is and then take a break, agreeing that it might be, say, 3:45-ish. You all tell me. You want to go for another half hour? Then pointing your finger at the wall means break. Okay, we're going to take a break. I need you all to be on point. We will get back together a little before 3:30 to follow up with the next witness, unless you all need more time. Thank you so much.
All rise for the jurors.
One thing on the record before we break. We had a sidebar towards the very end of the state's direct examination of Ms. Williams. The defense had a concern with questions that might follow in terms of Mr. Macgyver and Danny Jo Carter and how she was dressed. And I heard arguments from both sides and sustained the objection. And that meant Mr. Rucker wasn't able to go a little further down that road. Is there anything more you want to get on the record? Sustain the objection, but is there more you want to make?
Your Honor, at the bench, I think I asked you to instruct the jury to disregard it and withdrew that request.
Correct.
But I would ask to strike that testimony from the record about how Ms. Carter was dressed and whether Mr. Macgyver was there.
Okay. Anything else you want to add to my recitation of what we discussed at the bench? Mr. Rucker, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. I'm going to leave things as they are. Anything from the state before we break?
No. You said we're back at what time, Judge?
A little before 3:30. Who's our next witness?
Samantha Watson.
Okay. You ready for that?
Yes.
Okay. I'll learn who she is.
Okay.
All jurors are present and accounted for, Your Honor.
Thank you, Deputy Murphy. You all can be seated. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Rucker, the next witness for the state.
Yes, Judge. The next witness for the state would be actually Tanner McKinney.
Tanner McKinney.
Tanner
Switched up on me.
McKinney. I did, Judge.
Okay.
Okay, if you will. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you should give the court today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God? Yes, sir, if you will. Take a seat. Get her close to the mic as you can. For the purposes of the court's record, please state your name and spelling.
My name is Tanner McKinney. You need to spell it?
Please.
TANNERMCKINNEY.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good, good.
Good. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Let me get this out of the way.
It's good.
Okay. Could you introduce yourself to the jurors by telling them your name and how old you are?
My name is Tanner McKinney. I'm 29 years old. That's pretty much it.
Okay. And are you currently employed?
Yes, I am.
And what kind of work do you do?
I work at a pet cemetery as a memorial counselor.
Okay. Interesting work, I bet.
It is. It's different.
Okay. And have you always done that kind of work?
No.
What kind of work did you do previously?
I was a carpet cleaner.
A carpet cleaner?
Yeah.
How long did you have that job?
5 years.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, currently, you don't have to give us an address, but what city do you live in?
Athens, Georgia.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, you live there alone or with someone else?
I live with my girlfriend Samantha there.
Your girlfriend's name is Samantha?
Yes.
What's her last name?
Watson.
Okay. And how long have you all been in a relationship?
Since 21, so about 9 years, off and on.
Okay. And did you guys drive down together?
Yes, sir.
Well, I really appreciate you making the trip. Now, I want to talk to you about a real specific weekend, okay? Yes?
Yes, sir.
You just have to speak because she's writing down everything you say.
Yes, sir.
And I want to ask you, do you know the defendant in this case is Claude Tex McIver?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors how is it that you came to know Mr. McIver?
Mr. Macgyver offered my girlfriend free board for her horse in exchange for us for exercising their animals, their horses. And that's how I know him, is through Samantha.
Okay. Free board for your horse
Yes.
in exchange for you and Samantha.
Exercising the other horses there while we were with our animal.
Okay. And so, how many other horses were there? And we're talking about the ranch in Putnam County?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
And how many other horses are there that you all would exercise?
Not quite sure, but about 7 to 10.
Okay. And so, can you tell the jurors, if the date of this incident, just so I'm trying to give you a frame of reference, if the date of this incident is September the 25th, 2016, and that would have been a Sunday, how many years prior to that did you and Samantha actually come and exercise the horses there at the Putnam County Ranch?
Probably about 3-4 years, something like that.
Okay.
I'm not 100%.
Okay, that's all right. And can you tell the jurors how often would you go to exercise the horses?
We would try to go every week, but of course things would happen, so a more realistic estimate would be more like 2 to 3 times a month.
Okay. For a couple of years?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell the jurors during that time period, did Samantha and yourself, you lived in Athens the whole time?
Yes.
Okay. And during some of that time, was Samantha actually in school?
She was, yeah, at UGA.
At UGA. Now, how would you describe your relationship with Mr. McIver?
It was good. It was a professional one. You know, we took care of the horses, and it was a decent relationship.
Okay. And in exchange for allowing you to board your horse there, were you paid any monies or anything to do the things that you all did with the other horses?
No.
Okay. And were you the person who actually would exercise the horses yourself, or was that Samantha?
We would both. Now, Samantha's probably more informed about training and stuff like that, but I was just as capable.
Okay. You've been around horses a lot?
Since I met Sam, since I was 20, so I'm 21.
And can you tell the jurors, during that time, those couple of years, did you also come to know Diane Macgyver?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And how would you describe your relationship with Diane Macgyver?
I always saw her with Tex, and it was pretty much the same. A good relationship.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, when you would see them together interacting, how would you describe the way they interacted with each other?
Good. You know, I never really saw them get in an argument or anything like that. Most Sundays was a great day. You know, we'd go out there and we'd ride horses and get to talk to them and kind of catch up a little bit, and nothing to really break that pattern.
Okay. And other than coming to the ranch to exercise the horses, did you and Samantha have the occasion to come to the ranch for other events?
Yeah, once a year we would help out with Austin's birthday. It was kind of like a little event where they had people over, and we'd offer horseback rides and fishing and stuff like that.
Okay. And would you get the opportunity to watch the defendant and Diane Macgyver interact during those social events?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you tell the jury, during those events, was there any drinking?
Yeah. Yes.
And would you see both Mr. and Mrs. Macgyver drinking?
Yeah, sometimes.
Okay. And drinking what, you believe?
They liked wine. I think Tex might have been more of a beer guy, but I don't really remember specifically.
Okay. And how would you describe those interactions during those social events?
They were pretty good. I mean, there would always be a lot of people there, and they were very social people, so they'd be making their rounds. But one of the last events that we did with Diane, you know, they were dancing around, having a great time. They were fun people.
The ranch there at Putnam County, did you all tend to go inside of the main house when y'all were there on Sundays?
Not typically, no. We try to stay in the barn.
And so while you were outside of the main house, would you have any idea about the interactions between the defendant and his wife while they were in the house?
No, it's a separate building.
Right. Tell the jurors, the horses that you and Samantha went to go exercise, would they be inside of the barn or are they outside of the barn?
No, they're all pasture boarded, meaning they would stay outside almost indefinitely.
Okay. And so the barn was pretty much used for what?
For storing tack, saddles, feed, whatever you may need, you know, at a farm.
Okay.
Things like that.
All right. Now, over the course of those years, did you ever have the occasion to have personal conversations with either of the Macgyvers about intimate personal things, like about their marriage or finances or anything like that?
No.
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 You and Samantha really didn't have that kind of close relationship with them like that?
No.
Okay.
I mean, we were close, but they were much older than us, and it just never came up.
Yeah. Now, during the time that you would come out to the ranch on those Sundays, did you come to know a person by the name of Danny Joe?
Yes.
And about how long do you think you have kind of known Danny Joe?
I would guess as long as I've known Tex and Diane. Probably as long, yeah.
Okay. And how would you describe your relationship with Danny Joe?
It was good. She's as sweet as can be. And she also had a horse out there, so we had a lot in common. She also had, I think, a young granddaughter, too, that my girlfriend Samantha just adored. So.
And would Danny Joe bring her granddaughter out to the ranch sometimes on the weekends?
Yeah, she would.
And did you see her granddaughter interact with young Austin Swall?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you knew Austin Swall to come out to the ranch too, right?
Yes, I did, yeah.
And that would be in addition to the birthday parties?
Yes.
Now, based on kind of your relationship with this group, were you aware at all, or can you give us any information about the relationship between Austin's parents and the Macgyvers? Do you know anything about that relationship?
I know very little. What I do know is I can say that, you know, Austin was there a lot and he treated him like a grandson.
So on Sunday, September 25th of 2016, were you and Samantha at the Putnam County Ranch that day?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors what time about did you arrive at the ranch?
I'm around between probably about 11:30, 12:30, maybe 1 at the latest.
Okay. And when you got to the ranch, who was there?
Danny Joe, Diane, and Tex.
Okay. And so when you got to the ranch with Samantha, what happened? What did you all do?
Well, it was just a typical day. Basically, when we show up, they have the horses in the arena, and they're waiting on us. It's an uncovered arena. And we go in and we get our tack. And by that time, Danny Joe had come down, and she was wanting to ride with us as well. And I think that they were going to go to Atlanta temporarily to go to like a golf game or something like that. But we basically we tacked up our horses, and it was, for the most part, a normal day. I thought they were going to be riding as well, Tex and Diane, but that may be wrong. But I do know that we rode with Danny that day, so we tacked up all the horses and went for a ride.
Okay. What is an arena?
An arena is basically just a circular fence. It's something to keep the animals in while you're working them. You guys have definitely seen one, I'm sure.
Okay. And so the horses were already in the arena when you all arrived?
Yes.
Okay. And by exercising the horses, kind of what do you do in the arena with them?
Well, it depends. Some horses, they need to be, you know, ridden with a saddle because they need to be ready for a trail. Some horses, they can't be saddled right away. They have to be worked out and trained and relaxed a little bit to get what we call the wire out of them. And it just really depends per horse what we're doing that day.
Okay. And you use a real good horse term, tack. Like, what does that mean?
Tack means like saddle, bridle, the stuff that you need to ride a horse.
Okay. And there was a place within the barn where the saddles were kept?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so your thought when you arrived is that, like, hey, all of us are going to go riding.
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe so.
And then you later found out that the defendant and Diane Macgyver were going to go play golf.
Yes, sir.
Now, you said Atlanta, but let me ask you this. Did you know where they were going to go play?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors about how long were you and Samantha there at the ranch before the Macgyvers left to go play golf?
Not long. Maybe an hour or two at the most.
Okay. But you did find out that Danny Joe was going to stay and go riding with you and Samantha?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you if you recall having a conversation with Mr. Macgyver before he left with his wife to go play golf.
Yeah, he had asked me if I could take Danny Joe back home, and we couldn't. She lives in Atlanta and we live in Athens, and so I just said, hey man, we can. And he was like, oh yeah, and that was it.
Okay. Now, can you tell the jurors, had you ever been to Danny Joe's house before in Atlanta?
No, I hadn't.
When he said that to you, did you even know where Danny Joe lived?
No.
In the 3 or so years before, while you had been coming to the ranch, had Mr. McIver ever asked you to take Dan and Joe home?
No.
And you guys were kind of like students
Yes.
who lived in Athens.
Yeah.
Athens is how far from the Putnam County Ranch?
About an hour and a half.
About an hour and a half. And is it in the same direction or the opposite direction of Atlanta?
It's in the opposite direction.
And how long would it take you to go from the Putnam County Ranch to Atlanta, you think?
About an hour, hour and a half. At
About an
least.
hour, hour and a half. And when Mr. McIver asked you if you could take Danny Jo home, give her a ride, what did you tell him?
I just kind of hesitated for a second because, you know, it was one of those things that kind of threw me off a little bit because I didn't know. And then I said, well, you know, we live in Athens, and I don't remember his exact response, but he did not ask me to continue taking her. I mean, he may not have even thought of the fact that we lived in Athens. I'm not really sure why he asked me that.
You don't know why he asked you that?
No.
But as you sit here today, you remember that, don't you?
Yes.
Objection to leading, Your Honor.
Don't lead anymore, please.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Tanner, let me ask you this. Why do you think you remember having that conversation with Mr. McIver on Sunday, September 25th of 2016?
I have no idea. It's the one thing I remember, and I don't want to speculate.
I understand. After Mr. McIver asked you to give Dan and Joe a ride home, how long was it before he and Diane McIver left to go play golf?
Not long.
Okay. Did you actually see them when they left?
Yes.
And just describe for the jurors what you saw.
We were getting our tack prepared and stuff like that, and they pulled around to the arena and did a little loop, and they waved goodbye at us and honked and said goodbye. Something that they've done 1,000 times. I mean...
Right. Let me show you just a couple of photos. This is State's Exhibit number 7. It should come up right there on your screen. Can you see that?
I can, yes.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, if you follow this driveway here,
Yeah.
right? And you go back this way, what's located back this way?
The barn.
Okay. And what is behind or what's next to the barn?
Are you referring to the pond or the saloon?
Okay, there's a saloon.
The saloon's above the barn, yeah.
Okay. The saloon is above the barn.
Yes.
Okay. And behind the saloon is what?
The arena or the...
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. And is there a pond back there too?
No, there's 2 ponds, one in the back and one at the front of the property.
Okay. And let me ask you, do you know whether or not there's a place on the property where the McIvers shoot guns?
Yes, they do. There's a large hill where they shoot.
Have you seen it before?
Yeah, I've actually shot there before.
Okay. You have a firearm?
Yeah, I have a couple, yeah.
Okay. And you have semi-automatics, revolvers, or rifles?
We have no rifles, no semi-automatics. We have revolvers and shotguns.
Okay. And have you ever fired at the mound of dirt with the defendant before?
No.
Okay. Have you ever seen him go back there to shoot while you were there?
Occasionally, yeah.
Okay. And this is State 164. You recognize that?
Yes.
What is that?
That's the mound I was referring to.
Okay. And so, so what do? You just stand off in the distance and just fire into the mound?
Yeah, well, farther back, basically where that picture was taken, I believe there's actually a little concrete table where you can actually sit. No one really used it, but it's a very little rural middle of nowhere area to kind of shoot your gun.
Okay. And as far as you understand, the property behind that mound, that also belongs to the MacGyvers?
Yeah, for a little ways.
For a little ways?
Yeah, not far now.
Okay.
But
State 65, what are we looking at?
this is all the tack that I referred to earlier, all the stuff that we would need to ride horses.
Oh,
Am I mistaken?
hold on one second.
That's correct. We stopped at 52. Temporarily erase that image from your minds. I suspect it'll be back.
Yeah, okay. Let me see, let me get the numbers right. I apologize for that. Judge, at this time, I would like to, understanding there being no objection, tender into evidence State's Exhibits 51, 52, those are already in?
51 and 52 are in.
Okay.
We stopped there. The witness said, beyond that, I don't recognize things.
Okay, 62,
Okay.
63, 65, and 69.
69 is in.
It's in.
So you're introducing, you're tendering 62, 63, and 65,
That's correct.
to which the defense has no objection.
No objection.
So they're admitted. Which means you can put that one back on the screen.
Okay. So, can they put it back in their minds now?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. That's State 65. That is the tack room that has the saddles, right?
That's it.
Okay. And State 69.
It's a separate room. It's the feed room.
Okay. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. Can you tell the jurors, where were you on the property when Mr. MacGyver came and asked you to give Danny Joe a ride home?
I believe I was in the barn.
In the barn.
Yeah.
Let me show you States 51. What is that a photograph of?
That's the main hall of the barn. So if you're walking alongside this door, you would see the feed room. Just a little bit farther down, the same wall, the door for that. And a little farther up on the right, towards the front of the barn, you'd see the tack room.
And where do you think you were, or what do you remember being inside of the barn when Mr. MacGyver had the conversation with you?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think I was standing right about there.
Let me show you States 52. What are we looking at in States 52?
That's the back of the barn and
Okay.
the stalls.
Okay. What is that?
That's a horse stall,
Okay. What is that?
another horse stall.
And these doors right here, if we went out these doors, where would we be on the property?
You would open up next to a little brick patio area next to the arena.
Next to the arena,
Yes, sir.
where the horses were.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is States 37, and you can tell the jurors whether or not this is a photograph of the barn on the opposite side of the wall.
Yeah, that's looking the other direction. Same wall.
So, what's in this room right here?
I actually am not sure.
Okay. This doorway right here with the steps, what is that?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Because did you ever go inside the saloon?
But I could guess that that's the saloon door, but I wouldn't know 100%.
Don't guess, that's okay. And these doors right here, if we went out these doors here, where would we be on the property?
That'd be the front of the barn, the little driveway, and that area.
Okay. And if you went out that doorway to the driveway, if you took a left, would that take you alongside the house and out of the property?
Yes.
This is State's Exhibit 36. It's kind of fuzzy, but you recognize that?
Yeah, I do.
That's the barn.
Yes.
And those are the same doors that if you go out, you get to the concrete, you take a left and go out to the property.
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall Mr. Macgyver taking you inside the saloon and talking to you about a particular gun?
Yeah, in the beginning he did. There was a one gun that he had, I believe.
Okay. And you think that he would have done that in the beginning of what?
When we first met him.
Okay. So about 3 years or so ago?
Yeah.
Prior to the date of the death?
Yes.
Or so? Okay. And what was it about the gun that he was showing you?
Well, he was in the poker room, and that they had a poker table that had a gun that was just specifically for him, a special gun. He would cock and uncock, and he showed it to us, and that was pretty much it. It was his poker gun.
You called it his poker gun?
I don't remember. That's just that's how I remember it.
That's how you remember it?
Yeah.
What was it about the gun that was like special to him that he kind of showed you about?
I just remember it was very different, whereas most guns, you know, you pull back the action and it's pretty much straightforward. There were several different in-between steps you had to take in order to pull back that action and get it to fire.
And can you tell the jurors, what did he tell you about anybody else's ability to figure out the in-between steps in order to make the gun fire?
It was his gun, only his gun.
Can you tell the jurors, after Mr. Macgyver asked you to take Danny Joe home, did you talk to Danny Joe about that at all?
I don't think I did, no.
Okay.
No.
All right. All right. Was Samantha still outside when you came in?
I hope so, yeah, I think so.
Okay. Me too. All right, thank you. That's all my questions.
Any questions from the defense for Mr. McKinney?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Mr. McKinney, my name is Amanda Clark Palmer. Good afternoon.
Hi.
I think you and I have spoken on the phone before, haven't we?
We did, yeah.
All right. The way I understand what you told us about, is it Samantha's arrangement with Mr. and Mrs. Macgyver about kind of bartering? She could board her horse in return for kind of exercising the other horses?
Yes.
Okay, because normally if you want to board a horse, usually you have to pay to do that unless you have some property of your own where you can keep your horse.
Yeah, absolutely, and it can get expensive.
What do you mean by it can get expensive?
Well, for instance, to pasture board a horse in Athens can cost anywhere from $250 up per month.
Right.
And then you're adding in additional hay charges and feed charges. It just gets expensive.
Okay. And so I take it that you and your girlfriend enjoy riding horses and working with horses, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, but you weren't going out to the Macgyver's property for free and just out of the good of your heart, right? You were going out there because she could board her horse there.
For free, yeah, it was a win-win.
Yeah, well, I said you were going out there. What I meant to say was you all got some return benefit out of this arrangement with the Macgyvers, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, fair enough. You got to interact with both Tex and Diane McIver, right?
I did, yeah.
And I can't recall what you said about how often you would go out to the farm or the ranch. Did you say maybe a couple times a month?
A couple times. We tried to ideally go once a week on Sunday. That didn't happen all the time, so it varied.
And you said that you mainly had kind of a business relationship with Tex and Diane, but you also got to know them a little bit as well, right?
Yeah, it wasn't so much a business relationship. We just didn't see them enough to really become close.
Close friends.
Close to where we're calling all the time and, you know, all the dirty secrets and everything.
But there were times where you all would have lunch at the ranch with Diane and Tex McIver. Hosted a birthday party for your girlfriend at the ranch?
I think we might have had lunch out there, but I don't think we ever had a birthday out there.
Okay. But you had lunch with them on more than one occasion when you were out at the ranch, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever see Austin Schwall or his Boy Scout troop at the ranch? Were they ever there when you were there?
I saw Austin Schwall there with his friends and stuff, but as far as if they're in the Boy Scout troop, I have no.
Okay.
I can't say that.
Okay. Do you know how many acres is the entire ranch property?
No.
Is it large?
It is large, yeah.
All right. Plenty of room to ride horses?
Yes.
Okay. Did you say there were trails on the property to ride?
There are, yes.
So when we looked at a few pictures of the house or the building that was on the property, but the property extends for quite a ways other than just what we saw in those pictures, right?
Yes, it does.
And is it fair to say that Tex and Diane were warm to you?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. And you, from what you could observe, Tex and Diane seemed to have a good relationship?
Yes.
Didn't see them fight or argue, did you?
Not once, I don't think.
Okay. And you told us about the Sunday that, I guess it was September 25th, when Mr. McIver asked you if you could take Danny Jo back to her house, right?
Yeah.
And you told us that he asked you this in the afternoon before they went to play golf, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And when he asked you all, you said to him essentially that it would be too far of a drive for you to do that, right?
I don't even think I got that much out. Yeah.
Well, you just said, no, we can't do it.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
And he dropped it.
Yeah.
He didn't pressure you. He didn't keep insisting or asking that you take Danny Jo back to Atlanta.
No.
You just let the matter go.
Yeah.
Okay. And who was there? Was it just you when Mr. McIver said this about asking to take Danny Jo back to Atlanta?
It was just me. Yes.
Okay. It was just a conversation between the two of you all.
Yeah. Now, I thought that Sam was standing right there, but apparently she had walked off and was not there, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. And you were asked about whether you had seen parties, or you had ever seen Mr. or Mrs. McIver have an alcoholic drink before, right? I'm sorry, you have to say yes or no for the question.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you had seen them have maybe a glass of wine or a beer, right?
Yeah.
You never saw them drink to the point where they became overly intoxicated.
No, not really. I mean, not really, no.
Right. But if I use the term, they would sort of drink socially, does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Have a couple drinks?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but nothing to excess that you saw?
Yes.
Okay. And you don't know why Mr. McIver asked if you could take Danny Jo back to Atlanta?
I don't.
You don't know if he and Mrs. McIver wanted to spend the night at the ranch?
I'm going to object.
He's answered he doesn't know, so we don't need to ask more questions about that.
Okay, all right.
Sustained.
Thank you, Mr. McKinney.
Any redirect?
Just a two. One. Did you tell Samantha what Mr. McIver asked you to do, that is to take Danny Jo home? Did you tell that to Samantha?
I did.
Okay. And two, did you continue to board Sam's horse out there at the MacGyver Ranch after the death of Diane MacGyver?
Yes, we did.
And when did you cease to board your horse there at the MacGyver Ranch?
That's hard to tell. Now, Sam had an arrangement that she made with one of her friends, and I actually went out there to get the horse the day of. But it's been probably about 2 months that horse has been on the property. Now, as far as her arranging that with her friend and stuff, I have no idea.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Judge, that was three.
We'll get it right at some point. Any questions from the jurors for Mr. McKinney? That's good. Thank you. Mr. McKinney, can you share with the jury what you remember about how this, you called it the poker gun, your phrase was poker gun, how it looked? Was it a handgun? Was it a revolver? Was there something funny about how it looked? Because you described it as being different from your average gun.
When I say like different from your average gun, your average modern gun, your average modern handgun, it was an old revolver, older style. There was probably nothing really that spoke out with it, you know, distinctly, but I just remember it being an older revolver.
Any follow-up based on that, Mr. Rucker? Well, I mean, I have one. Do you recall a make, is it a Remington or just an older gun?
I can't.
Okay.
Could you provide, Tanner, a little bit more detail about how the gun looked? Color, size, anything like that?
It was like a revolver, like a 6-shooter is basically the way I would describe it. It was darker, colored. It was nondescript. There was nothing that would stand out of it. There was no like labels. I don't really remember it being something that if you stuck it on a table or anything like that, you'd point out at it.
Okay. Okay.
So.
Do you remember that about the gun? You said something about something that pulled back. Was that the hammer?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think I might have said it was the action, or I meant the hammer.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Ms. Clark-Paul.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. At the time that Mr. McIver showed you the gun, do you know, was there ammunition in it?
No, I don't.
You don't know if there was?
No, I don't.
Okay. So he didn't demonstrate actually firing the gun?
Yes, ma'am. He did not demonstrate that to me.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything else, or are you just giving me these?
Just give me the cards back. I'm sorry, I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McKinney. Next witness.
Yes, sir. Samantha Watson.
Is that the same as Samantha Walton on your
Yes,
list?
I think that's a typo. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you should give the court today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, ma'am. If you will, get as close to the mic as possible. For the records of the court, please state your name and spelling.
Samantha Elizabeth Watson, S-A-M-A-N-T-H-A, Watson, W-A-T-S-O-N.
Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Would you do us a favor? Could you just make sure that you kind of speak into the microphone?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, that way you won't have to repeat your answers.
Sure.
Okay. Would you please introduce yourself to the jurors, tell them your name and how old you are.
Hi, my name is Samantha Watson. I'm 29 years old.
Okay. And would you tell the jurors just a little bit about your educational background?
I have a degree in animal science from the University of Georgia. I've been a vet tech for over 10 years. And I work at the University of Georgia Veterinary Teaching Hospital.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, how do you know Tanner McKinney?
Tanner is my boyfriend. We've been together for 7-8 years, something like that. We don't really keep track, but we've been living together for the past 6 years.
Okay. And so...
He said off and on, just so you know.
We did break up once, but that's neither here nor there.
I'm going to give you a little chance to clean that up, so people are watching. Okay. And so, could you share with the jurors a little bit about how it is you came to know the defendant in this case, Claude Tex McIver?
I came to know Mr. McIver through my mom, who worked for Mike Bowers, a lawyer in Atlanta. He knew Tex because they both shared a love of Pasafinos, which is a breed of horse, it's a Spanish breed. And I had ridden Mr. Bowers's Pasafinos in the past because he knew that I liked horses and that I had a horse. And my mom had talked to Mr. Bowers because I had gotten into UGA and I was going to be moving out to Athens very soon, and I wanted to bring my horse at least closer to me. So I was looking for a new place to board him, and Mr. Bowers had recommended Tex to me as Mr. McIver as a potential place to keep Tango, my horse. And it just worked out. We met up and discussed, basically that I would keep my horse on his property, and in exchange I would exercise the other horses that he had on the property. So essentially it was free board in exchange for work, and that was the deal. So that's how we came to know each other.
Okay. And Madam Court Reporter, did you get the spelling of that Spanish horse? Okay. Would you spell that for Madam
Paso Fino. It's 2 words, P-A-S-O, Fino, F-I-N-O.
Okay. It's actually a really pretty horse too, isn't it?
Yes, they're gorgeous.
Yeah. And can you tell the jurors, when did this arrangement come into existence between yourself and the defendant?
It was about 5-ish years ago. I want to say I moved him out of there, out to his property in August or October. So this would have been 2013.
Okay. And could you tell the jurors how often would you go out to the Putnam County Ranch to see your horse and to also exercise the other horses there?
We would go about every other weekend, so about twice a month.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors about how long of a drive is it from Athens to the Putnam County Ranch?
It's about an hour, hour and 15 if you go the speed limit.
Okay. If you go the speed limit, it's hour 15. Okay. And can you tell the jurors, was your arrangement such that you could just like pop up at the ranch like unannounced?
Not necessarily. The property is gated, so I couldn't get in without permission from Tex McIver or somebody else on the property. Occasionally it was Diane, occasionally it was Javier, but most of the time it was Tex who gave us the permission.
And who did you know Javier to be?
Javier was the caretaker on the property, so he would maintain, the grounds, take care of the animals, so on and so forth.
Did you know him to actually live on the property?
Yes, sir.
Okay. About how long would you say you made the acquaintance of Diane Macgyver?
I met Diane shortly after I met Tex, so about the same amount of time. Maybe, there possibly was a couple of weeks to a month in between when I met her. I don't think I met her the first time I went out there, or I can't remember exactly, but around the same time.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, in the times that you were there out at the ranch, did you get the opportunity to observe the interactions between Mr. and Mrs. Macgyver?
If I did, they were relatively brief. They would come down, maybe say hi to the horses. Diane rode with us a couple of times, but not very often. So yeah, I saw some interactions, but not an extended amount of time.
Right. And when you were there, would you typically socialize with the Macgyvers, like inside the house?
Only a couple of times in the entire time that I had my horse on that property. We had gone in maybe a handful of times. I can probably count on one hand the amount of times that I actually went into the house for any reason. Again, and if we did, it was fairly brief.
Okay. Now, I'd like to direct your attention to Sunday, September 25th, 2016, and ask, did you go to the ranch on that day?
Okay. So start from when we got there?
Yeah.
So we arrived on the ranch. From what I can remember, I believe I called Tex from the gate because they had a little speaker phone. You could dial different people's numbers from the speaker phone to be let in. And so I called Tex. He opened the gate for me. I can't remember if he answered and we, exchanged anything over the speakerphone, or if it was just, hey, I'm here, let me in kind of thing. That's usually how it went, pretty quick. We drove in. We went down to kind of the far side of the property where the barn is, because we knew that they were eating lunch at that point. So we didn't stop by the house or bug them or anything. We knew what we were there for, so we just go and do it. So we went down to the barn. Tanner and I got out of the car, went to go get the horses. So we'll usually go into the barn, grab some feed, go back to the round pen, wait for the horses to come down, put some feed in some buckets to encourage them. And we were getting the horses all together, and then Miss Danny Jo came down and said, "Hey, how are y'all doing?" And I think she told us that they were finishing.
Hold on one second, Samantha.
Sorry.
Hold on one second. I just want you to not tell us what Danny Jo told you.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm gonna direct you better with a question.
Okay.
When Danny Jo came downstairs, did she come down alone?
Yes, she did.
And did she talk to you about something?
We didn't.
Don't tell me what she talked to you about.
Okay.
Did she talk to you?
I think we did talk. Yes.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, did she stay down kind of in your presence, like from then on?
From what I can remember, yes, she stayed because at that point I had pulled out maybe 1 or 2 horses. I knew that Danny Jo was interested in riding that day, so I brought her horse out, Savannah. So she kind of went over and started grooming Savannah, and so she was kind of in that general area getting ready with the horses because she was going to join us on the ride there shortly.
Okay. And you have been kind enough to come to my office, I think twice, right? To meet with me about this case, right?
Yes, sir.
And the last time you came, I actually asked you how well you were able to draw, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to show you an exhibit. It is marked as State's Exhibit number 167. I don't know if there's an objection.
No objection.
Okay, so so I will tender State's Exhibit 167.
Submitted.
And I just want you to take a look at it real quick, up close. And if you could tell the jurors whether or not you actually drew that.
Yes, sir, I did.
And what is it a drawing of?
It is a drawing of just a general layout of the property of the farm where we kept my horse and Texas horses.
Okay, and it's not to scale or anything like that, right?
No.
But we can look at it and get some idea about where things are.
Sure.
And how many pages is your drawing?
There are 3 pages total.
Okay, and it's done in your own hand?
Yes, sir.
And you signed each page?
Yes, I did.
And you put the date on it?
I did.
What date did you draw those?
2/24/18, so February 24th of this year.
Okay.
Okay.
So is it better this way for you?
It does give a better view.
Okay. So let me get it kind of situated on here. And there's a pointer right there in front of you.
Why don't you try? Let's see if the screen works. There was some guy during lunch poking around.
Oh, that can.
Let me ask you to do this, Samantha. Touch the screen in front of you and like hold your finger there for a second. See if it lights up.
Mush it. No? Okay, don't break it.
Nada. Sorry.
Sorry. We tried.
Yeah. Would you please guys just stand very briefly to your feet and watch that step right there because I don't want you to fall. Okay? And if you could just orient the jurors and just kind of start at the beginning and tell them what we're looking at in your drawing.
Okay. So so where we would come in, so the road leading to Texas property is over here, and then there's a driveway coming this way. So we would turn right onto the property. The driveway is a very long driveway from the start of the property. So this first sort of dotted line is the first cow fence. So there would be a lot of cattle in there. The far dotted line is the other side of the fence, where there's even more on the other side. So there's another big pasture where cattle would roam as well on the far side of that fence. So these 2 solid lines are the driveway. They come around. You can see the main house. They have a little saltwater pool, and then on the far side is the upstairs is the barn, saloon, guest house, and then on the bottom level is the actual barn, and then these little 3 lines jutting out on the side are some stalls, some fencing that jutted out from stalls inside the barn so that he could stall horses there. That's typically where we would tie the horses when we got them ready to be saddled, because the taproom and everything is within the barn. And then down here is the round pen. So there's a pasture on this side of the round pen where the horses usually would hang out. We get the horses in the round pen.
tie the horses up. And then over here, that little square is a gate that leads back into this big back pasture and all that other stuff.
Okay. And then basically your second page, you kind of just showed us there's a pond back there in the back.
Right, so if you kept going, so if over here was the round pen and the barn, there's a gate here that leads into the big main pasture with the horses, and there's a large pond there, and then there's a fence that goes around the back to that back pasture that I mentioned earlier.
Okay. And is it back there and through that back gate there that we see like a little circle that you drew right here, like back this way, is that where we have the shooting mound?
No, the shooting mound is more, so that would go above, and the shooting mound would be more off in this corner.
Up in this corner here?
Yeah, where that other gate was, so there would be a gate on this side that I have in the other picture that goes sort of, northeast.
Okay.
Is where the mound would be.
Okay.
Can she sit down?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yes. I apologize. Now, can you tell the jurors, when is the, strike that, let me ask you a better question. Did you see Mr. and Mrs. Macgyver when they left the ranch?
Briefly, I did see them. I did not actually speak to them, but they drove down sort of around that corner where the barn is. There's a little grassy kind of knoll right in front of the round pen. So they kind of drove down the grassy knoll. At that point, I was in the round pen working with a horse. So if you're familiar with lunging, it's where you kind of run around in circles to get them warmed up before you ride. So I was currently lunging a horse in the round pen when I saw them drive down. I kind of waved to them, just say hey, and acknowledge that we're here, and continued on with what I was doing. I saw Tanner kind of go up and chat with them briefly, just through the car window, and then from what I can remember, they drove off and left.
Can you tell the jurors what position in the vehicle did Mrs. Macgyver occupy?
From what I can remember, Mrs. Macgyver was in the passenger seat.
In the front?
Correct, front passenger. Yes.
And test your memory. Do you recall whether she was wearing a hat or not?
I cannot recall, but that may not be so much memory as it was distance, because they were quite far away from me, and I usually don't wear my glasses on the property because I have decent vision without glasses. It's just far away I can't see, so I have to wear them when I'm driving and things like that. But when I'm working with horses, I don't need to wear them, so I usually don't, so they don't get broken.
Okay. And so then I just presume that Mr. Macgyver was in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
And I want to ask you, at the time that Mr. and Mrs. Macgyver left the ranch, did you know where they were going?
I was told that they were going to play golf.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, it is technically hearsay. She said golf. We've heard that, but let's make sure we're limiting things to non-hearsay.
Yeah. Can you tell the jurors, did after the Macgyvers left the property, or before they left the property, did you have a conversation with Tanner about something he discussed with Mr. Macgyver?
Yes, he came up and spoke to me because I was coming out of the round pen. So they had driven off. They had left at that point. As far as I know, they were not. I could not see them anymore. Tanner came over to me, and I was exiting the round pen, and he said, "Okay, objection."
Yep.
Okay, let me see if I can rephrase. Just type.
To ask another question. Your question she was answering, and we got to a point where the answer needed to stop.
Right, I understand. You recall Tanner talking to you about a conversation that he had with Mr. Macgyver?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And as a result of what Tanner told you about the conversation, did you say anything to Danny Joe Carter?
I did not, because I, didn't want to cause any conflict.
You didn't say anything to Danny Joe Carter because you didn't want to cause any conflict, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Can you tell the jurors when you and Tanner got ready to leave the ranch that Sunday, did you give Danny Joe Carter a ride home?
No, we did not.
Okay. Just a shout out to Mom. Is Mom in the courtroom?
Yes, she is.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. That's all my questions.
Any questions from the defense for Ms. Watson?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, can't go yet.
Not so fast.
Ms. Watson, my name is Amanda Clark Palmer. I represent Mr. McIver, and I think that you and I may have talked on the phone before, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can you, this diagram that you drew, this doesn't show the area where you and Danny Joe and Tanner went to ride horses on the property, does it?
It shows sort of the beginning of the trail where we would go. So where this gate is, that little square rectangle, that's a gate leading to the trails where we go ride.
And that afternoon, that Sunday afternoon, how long of a ride did you go on with Danny Joe and Tanner? Like time-wise?
Yeah, I'd say probably about 30, 45 minutes.
And was it just the one ride?
Correct.
And when you came back, well, the weather that day was a sunny day, wasn't it?
Yes.
And it was in late September, right?
Yes.
And it was warm outside?
Mm-hmm.
You have to say it.
Yes, sorry.
Was it more than warm? Was it hot outside? Do you remember?
I want to say it was pretty hot, yeah.
When you go riding, or when you went riding that day, just what kind of clothes were you wearing? Were you wearing long jeans?
Yes, I always wear long jeans when I ride because I'm actually allergic to horses. We're here. So I would break out in hives if I didn't.
Okay. Did you wear short sleeves or long sleeves? Do you remember?
Short sleeves.
Okay. And on the 30 or 40 minute ride that you went on, did you start to sweat because it was warm and you were out riding horses?
I'm sure I did.
Okay. When you came, the three of you all came back to the house, what did you do after that?
We came back to the house. We took the tack off of the horses, brushed them down, turned them out. I think Danny Joe kind of stayed briefly to chat a little bit more, and then she said, okay, well, I'm going to go back to the house and wait for Tex and Diane. And we said, okay, we'll see you later. Tanner and I finished up with the horses, made sure all the gates were locked, and went home.
What time was it, if you think, if you can estimate, what time was it when you left to go on the ride, the horse ride?
When we left to go on the horse ride, it probably would have been, I'd say around 1 o'clock, 1:30.
So when you got back to the barn, it probably would have been somewhere between 2 and 2:30?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, best that you can remember.
Yes.
Right, you didn't...
Yeah, I didn't time it, and I didn't look at my watch, but I knew that we had to be out of there by a certain time in order to make it back to Athens. So we usually don't leave any later than 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay. To the best of your recollection, is that probably about the time you left the ranch that Sunday, somewhere around 3 or 4 in the afternoon?
I would say so, yeah, 3:30.
Okay. And you told us, you kind of got ahead to my next question, when you got back from the horse ride, sounds like Danny Jo stayed at the barn with you for a little while.
Just briefly, to help us take the saddles off and get the horses situated. She loves to love on her horse, Savannah, so I think she gave her a little, some treats and a little extra attention for a good ride.
And then she, as far as you know, she went back up to the house.
Yeah, the last I saw of her was leaving to go back around that corner towards the house, up the driveway.
Okay. All right. Can I have just a moment?
Sure.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any follow-up?
No, sir.
Any questions from the jurors? Yes. Deputy Murphy. Thank you. Hey, Mr. Moore, if you wouldn't mind standing back up for a second.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you should give the court today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Please have a seat. Get as close to the mic as you can. For the records of the court, please state your name and spelling.
Jonathan Moore, Jonathan Moore.
Hey, Mr. Moore, before we get started, were you in court earlier today?
Yes, sir.
How long were you in court?
I got here like 3 o'clock.
You've been sitting in court for a while?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you guys aren't doing a good job of what you're supposed to do. Do you want to, I don't know what Mr. Moore is here to talk about. Does the defense want to voir dire Mr. Moore outside the presence of the jury? Because I'm happy to give you that opportunity.
I don't think that's necessary, Judge, but I expect his testimony.
Okay. But let's not have this happen again, State. They're your witnesses, not the defense. Okay. Keep going, Mr. Abate. You didn't do anything wrong, by the way. You're clear. They should have kept you outside while this stuff was happening here in court.
Yes, sir.
You can blame it all on me.
Gotcha.
Could you introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Jonathan Moore.
And Mr. Moore, are you in school?
Yes, sir.
Where are you in school at?
Georgia State.
And what are you studying over at Georgia State?
Computer Information Systems.
Okay. Are you working currently?
Yes, sir.
Where are you working?
Longhorn.
Okay. And which location?
Right now I work at the one in Cumberland by the mall.
Okay. Before working at the Cumberland location, did you work at any other Longhorn locations?
Yes, sir. I worked at the one in Conyers.
Okay. And how long did you work at the Longhorns in Conyers?
For a little over a year.
A little over a year. Okay. And how long have you been at the one in Cumberland?
Since August of 2017.
Your Honor, I'm going to tell you what's been marked as exhibit 214, 215, and 216. They've been previously shown to defense, and I believe there's no objection.
Correct, there's no objection.
214 through 16. All right, those are admitted.
Thank you, Judge.
Sure.
Mr. Moore, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 214. What are we looking at here?
The front of the Conyers restaurant.
Bring back good memories?
I guess you could say that.
Okay.
He did say that.
I was waiting for my leading objection. Did you work at that Conyers Longhorns back in September, or on September 25th of 2016?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you working that evening?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What what was your schedule like that Sunday?
Well, when I was back then, I'm not sure for that specific day, but I always work at nighttime, so it probably was like 4 to close or 5 to close.
And that was that always when you worked at that location at the same time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anything about that night that sticks out in your mind?
Not really.
Any tables that you served that evening that stuck out in your mind?
Now, yes, but if it was never brought to my attention, I probably would never thought about it again.
Okay. So now, what stuck out in your mind?
Well, I remember the little details. Probably they ordered. I remember the bill most because I always remember the Conyers location is kind of rare for tables to buy a whole bottle of wine. Normally they'll get a glass or, you know, extra little pour, but it's not the whole bottle. I remember that table, whole bottle.
Okay. And do you remember anybody from that table?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what do you remember about them?
I remember it was an older couple, 3 people at first, and then one person joined us later.
Okay.
They ordered his food and, you know, had his stuff waiting for him to come in, and then once that was done, he kind of paid enough.
Okay. And the 3 people who were there before the gentleman, do you remember if they were all males? I know you said it was a couple, all males, all females.
It was 2 women and a male, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And anything about the 2 females and the... Did you, after the bill was closed, did you pay attention to how long the 4 people sat at the table?
No, not necessarily.
Okay. And at that location, if you know, and if you don't, I don't know is a perfectly fine answer, but was there a video surveillance system or you know, cameras within the restaurant?
Not to my knowledge.
Now, you were talking about the bottle of wine.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to zoom in and point on the receipt where that is. Do you see it?
Yes, the Trinity bottle of Trinity Oaks Pinot Noir. It's the bottom.
And explain to the jury again why that sticks out in your mind.
Because most tables don't come in and order a whole bottle. They'll order, like, you know, individually get different glasses or whatnot. But it was rare for that location, at least, for people to come in and order a full bottle.
Is it less rare at the Cumberland location now?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you get a good tip that night?
Yeah.
No further questions?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Clark-Palmer,
Yes.
any questions
I
for
do.
Mr. Moore?
Mr. Moore, my name is Amanda Clark-Palmer. I represent Mr. McIver. Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I used to work at Longhorn when I was in college, so I remember Close Filet very well.
Yes, sir.
Do you still have to sing the birthday song?
Nah, we stopped that.
Thank goodness. Okay. It caught your attention that they ordered a bottle of wine, because I saw on the bill a bottle of wine cost $25, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And generally, hopefully, the bigger your bill gets, the bigger your tip is going to get.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? So we're happy when people order bottles of wine.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you said that that didn't happen so much at the Conyers location, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But do I understand that now it happens to you more often at the Cumberland location that you're at now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's a good thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thanks very much.
No problem.
Any follow-up, Mr. Abate?
No, Your Honor.
Any questions from the jurors? Okay, they do. Thank you. Sure. Mr. Moore? Do you recall if the people who were sitting at table 104 took the bottle of wine with them when they left?
No, they're not allowed. We don't allow customers to leave the establishment with alcohol.
Okay. Any follow-up, Mr. Abate?
No, Your Honor.
No,
Ms.
you're
Clark-Palmer?
And I'm handing the card back.
Okay. Thank you. So, Mr. Moore, you are free to go. Appreciate you being here. Good luck at school.
Yes, sir.
So, folks, we could start with the next witness, and you would hear the witness get sworn in, and then state his or her name for the record, and then the state would say, tell us your name again and where you work right now, and then we have to end. I am loath to give up even 5 minutes, but I think we're going to do that. So you know, I'm going to talk with both sides about their sense of how we're moving along, so that I can let you know in the morning whether I'm going to mandate that we go till 5:30. I won't actually do that, but I might encourage you all to build in a little extra time in your schedule so that we get more done. You have been real gracious in agreeing to a slightly shorter lunch and this and that. I'm not going to create a forced march, but I do want us to continue to make progress. So I'm going to talk with the attorneys after you head out. We will get going with whoever we were going to handle now at 9 in the morning. You guys were on time. Do that again, and we'll get started at 9 on Thursday morning. You have a wonderful Wednesday evening. Don't talk about the facts of the case with the folks you might be spending time with this evening. No outside research. You figured this out. You don't need to Google anything. You write it down, and if it's appropriate for you all to learn about it, the question will be posed. We'll see you in the morning. Thanks so much for your day.
All rise for the jury.
So, a few things. One, any reason we couldn't get at least your first swipe at jury charges on Monday? Email to Ms. Lyon and the other side on Monday. State?
They already sent this line in the jury charges. They were doing this.
They were, but we talked about them. Mr. Samuel said, hey, is it okay if they're delayed? And I said, sure. Ms. Lyon has told me she's not going to be able to take a pass at them until next week. So that's why I'm saying if we could get them to her by Monday. But you're saying state's already gotten them in?
Yes, sir.
Round one. Okay. Mr. Samuel, you had asked for more time, and that was great. Not an issue.
What we're working on, and I stopped working whatever it was last Friday or something, when you said there's a bunch of patent charges, we review patent charges, we may ask for some modifications, that'll take 5 minutes to look at. There's 2 instructions, maybe 3 instructions that are home codes, and they're tricky, and there's no problem changing Monday. That's the short answer to your question.
Great.
Well, the only question you asked.
Okay.
They're just going to need some work.
Okay, so if you will get that to the other side and to Ms. Lyon at some point on Monday, she was thinking that she'll be able to turn to that early next week. That's still way ahead of things, and I appreciate that as the trial progresses, there may need to be supplemental requests from both sides, and that's fine. But if she's got the 95% up front, then she's not scrambling as we inch towards closings. Second, in terms of sequestration, you got your 1 pass. It was a sort of a waste of a pass on you guys because there shouldn't have been a concern. Mr. Moore probably could watch the entire trial. But I've seen lots of investigators come in and out. You need a filter at the doors. It's not Deputy Murphy's job. I'm not tasking him with saying, wait, are you a witness? So let's make sure that folks don't slide by. Presumably at least, but I think that some of the directs going forward could be made more lean to focus on what you really need. The jurors may start to fade more when it's taking a while to get to, well, the 3 things I need this witness for are these 3 things. It also creates a longer cross because the defense is going to ask about the picture of the shooting mound or something like that. I trust you guys will stay focused on not just the daily clock, but the monthly calendar, because things will get real complicated if we're not wrapping up at the end of March. That was all I had. Anything from the state before we break for today?
No, sir.
Okay. Anything from the defense?
Her sister's in the courtroom. We got permission to have her in the courtroom exempted. They said they were going to call her today. They didn't call her today.
I never committed to calling her today.
Huh?
I never committed to calling her today.
Well, I don't put me in the middle of your back and forths. Your question is,
Can she remain there?
of course, if there's an agreement that someone can be, no one has, we have both Chief Wakocha and Investigator Griffin coming in and out. That's fine. They're investigators. Mr. Hyde is sitting right here. If there's an agreement that a potential witness can be in court, I don't need to be in the middle of it. It's not an issue. No one had agreed on Mr. Moore, and I get it that Mr. Moore, in the big picture, isn't someone who ought not to have heard a whole lot about the horse grooming and the horse exercising. But just going forward, let's be careful about that. Do you believe, State, that you might call Mr. Macgyver's sister tomorrow? How about this? You guys confer so that we don't have folks hovering in a way they don't need to. But Mr. Samuel, I have no issue with Mr. Macgyver's sister. I'm sorry, I just don't remember your last name. Ms. Martin. I have no issue with Ms. Martin being in here if the state doesn't have an issue with it. So she can stay as long as she wants. It may be that she wants to not have to stay much longer. And so I'll ask the two sides to work through that. I will intervene if there's a hardship being occasioned upon her and say you need to call her tomorrow morning. So you guys work through that, and I'm happy to assist. Anything else from the defense?
No, I think we're going to go with this list hopefully soon, and we're ready to go tomorrow.
Great. Thank you, everyone.